Done.
All right, cool. Let's get this going. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 103 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you at 7:21 p.m. on another Wednesday night, on the first night of NHL free agency. And of course, some big news drops right before we're going live. They couldn't have waited like 20, 25 minutes, apparently. Pretty inconsiderate of them. And unfortunately, Johnny Gaudreau as a BC guy. But nonetheless, we do have some breaking news. And we do have lots to talk about today. But before I get to that, Ryan, how are we doing on this fine Wednesday night?
I'm doing okay. Not too bad. Obviously, like you said, a lot to talk about. Nikhil Harry finally gets dealt, some stuff with the Red Sox. But of course, the big ticket, why I think everyone's tuning in tonight is along with the NHL draft stuff, because the Bruins made a decent amount of picks that obviously I'm sure people want to hear your thoughts on. Like you mentioned, it is day one of the NHL free agency period. And man, did a lot of people move, I guess, for lack of a better term, phrase. Like you said, big breaking news with the Gaudreau stuff that I didn't even see until you mentioned it. So a lot to get into, and I don't want to ramble on and take any more time away from that.
Yep. As I tweet this out.
And then moments of the week as well that we can get into.
Of the week, so we tweet that out. One here. They choose.
Re-sign back into my Google account because for some reason it knocked me out of it right as we start the show. Because why can't we, have nice things and not have technical difficulties?
Yeah, we're just getting fired up here.
People, working on the fly here.
A little bit of craziness that we were anticipating to start. But yeah, the breaking news for anybody who hasn't seen yet, as we just had that lull for anybody listening as the podcast version. Johnny Gaudreau proved us all wrong. Everybody was saying the Devils, the Islanders, Philly was in there for a while, even though they didn't have enough cap space ever, because they're dumb. We'll get into them a little later. Johnny Gaudreau is a Columbus Blue Jacket. They have been, from the rumors, looking for a big splash over the past few weeks and leading into the draft, and they got it with Johnny Gaudreau. They snuck in and got him 7 years, $9.8 million per, $68.6 million total. He had 8 and 10.5 on the table from Calgary. Wants to be closer to home, takes a little bit less money for less years. It goes to Columbus to play with on the same team as Sean Corrali. So good for him. Smart choice. Gets to play with the GOAT. So, that's an interesting wrinkle to free agency, because Columbus came out a little later in the day as an option, sleeper option, and they got it done. And Jarmo Kekalainen dropped his nuts on the table. So Johnny Gaudreau is a Columbus Blue Jacket, and I can't believe I'm saying that, to be honest. But the thought of him and Kent Johnson on the same team is really fun whenever Kent Johnson establishes himself as a full-time NHLer, which I could see being as soon as this season. They're both just have ridiculous passing ability and hands and skill and stuff, so that's fun. But it leaves Columbus in a spot where they need to probably trade a winger or two. But we'll talk about that a little later. But some breaking news for anybody who didn't hear it. Johnny Gaudreau, 7 years, $68.6 million with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
A lot of money.
Is off the market. I'm very surprised to see him not get over 10. But he was close. He was close. But moments of the week, for me, it was seeing dumb Bears fans that actually think Nikhil Harry will be good for them. I get it. You traded a 7th-round pick for the guy. It's not a lot. It's a couple of years from now, excuse me. A lot of people obviously being sarcastic, but I read through some replies, and there are some people that genuinely think he will be a really good player for the Bears, and I feel bad for those people.
After watching him and after watching the Bears, I know obviously it's new coaching and everything this year for the Bears, and I have hope for Justin Fields because I think he's going to be a decent quarterback in the NFL. But after watching the combination of how bad he's been in his career and how bad the Bears offense just as a whole was last season, and again, maybe new things are coming. I don't know how anybody can think that's a positive. I mean, yeah, maybe it's, new scenery. The guy has a change of heart and, maybe turns into the player maybe a lot of people thought he was supposed to be when he was drafted. I'm with you. I think you're in the same boat I am. If you were getting to that, before I cut you off, I just don't think this guy's anywhere near an NFL caliber player.
Yeah, of course, people are leaning towards, he's really good. He's got really good blocking grades per Pro Football Focus.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to be a blocker for you, and he's going to mess up a lot. And if anything, he can salvage as a player. It'd be better as a tight end at this rate. Like, honestly,
so,
he's not a good football player. He's just not. So I really hope people don't have super high expectations for N'Keal Harry, because you will more likely than not be disappointed.
Well, the Madden sim that's going around doesn't. I'm pretty sure you saw that where Madden does all the simulations of new guys getting traded to teams or signed, and they do them for the upcoming year. And he was projected to have, what was it, like 69 downs played or something like that, and 0 catches, 0 targets, 0 yards, like the typical N'Keal Harry. Like, I guess it's realistic in that sense. Like, I'll give credit where credit's due there. That the game even knows that, like, this guy doesn't have a shot of crack. Maybe not a shot, but isn't going to probably crack their top, 3-4 wide receivers on the team.
Yeah, he joins a group of guys looking to prove themselves, and very young players / rookies being Velus Jones Jr., who they drafted this year. But yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of feel bad for those Bears fans, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Being a Bears fan must mess with your brain a little bit, no offense. But for anybody truly expecting him to do big things, I do wish that you reconsider. Yep. The other moment of the week, and this one's just too perfect, and I'm gonna let you get going.
Yeah, I mean, I briefly scrolling through Twitter when I first saw this, I saw the report, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting comment from John Morant. Thought it was real to some degree, but then you look at the Twitter account, and if just anybody with a brain sees a Twitter account called Ballsack Sports, like, you should know right then and there that there's a red flag being raised. If people missed it over the weekend, fake John Morant quote from a parody account, like I said, Ballsack Sports went viral. That's my thing too. Before I jump into this, is if you go and look at that Twitter account, it says right on there, parody sports account or whatever the actual term is. So the fact that ESPN picked it up and ran with it as a real story is absolutely ridiculous, and just shows, again, as we've learned during our time at Merrimack and taking all those media classes, that like maybe some background checks and stuff should be looked at before you just try to throw a headline out there to get people to read it. But the thing I'm talking about, John Morant had an interview with Bleacher Report's Taylor Rooks over the weekend. He was talking about, I didn't watch the whole video, it was an hour long. The clip I saw was like 2.5 minutes. He was asked something about Michael Jordan. I think it was basically like, what would you say to Michael Jordan? What was kind of his influence on the game for you? Taylor Rooks asked John Morant that, and his actual quote, the tweet read that, quote, if you put MJ in today's game, this is the fake quote, if you put MJ in today's game, he's just another superstar. We got me, Steph, Luka, Dame, Trey. That right there, again, if anybody with a brain thinks that Trey Young is a superstar in the NBA, like, I like Trey Young, but he's not on Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, and even Luka's level. Like, let's take a step back there. The quote goes on and says, and then guys like Bron, KD, Giannis, Kawhi, it's not one superstar and a bunch of, average dudes, you feel. So a lot of people, ESPN including, took that as, John Morant was taking a shot at MJ. They also went further and said, that John Morant would lock MJ up. Again, all fake quotes, but instead ESPN, of, like I said, doing some background checks, even looking into this account in the slightest, decided to take it and run with it. Kendrick Perkins was the guy that got to play the idiot on live TV. Poor Kendrick Perkins. He was on ESPN's midday show, This Just In, which I have never heard of. I don't know if you've seen any of that or know anything about that show. But they decided to roll with the quote. Kendrick Perkins was asked his thoughts on John Morant's comments. And again, the whole thing was fake. Again, just look into it a little bit. Ballsack Sports is not, it's just a credible name in general. I saw some people on Twitter were commenting like, oh, this account should be held accountable for putting something out there, putting a fake quote in John Morant's name. And it's like, no. You hold the reputable news source that's supposed to know these things as the ones that are accountable. Like, it's just
leader in sports.
Exactly. Like,
it's so crazy how people go with that angle too. Like, who cares? Like,
exactly.
Who honestly cares?
Because that was like a Karen in the
all the time. Like, people, it's called Photoshop. Like, people have access to Photoshop. People do these things. A lot of the time, it's really funny. Like,
one of the articles I looked at, they said this isn't even the first time ESPN has fallen for this account. Like, this has happened 2 or 3 times before. The article I had didn't have any examples, but it said it's like ESPN was duped again by Ballsack Sports, because like, it's just the more you say it, it's like, how do you even think it's realistic?
Sports.
Yeah.
John Morant. Why is that?
Why is that?
Why is
just
that?
This
a lot of people are tired of the Brian Windhorst memes, I feel like, already, but I'm not.
Brian Windhorst is just a meme to begin with. That just added another layer onto what Brian Windhorst is. Like,
I don't know if I'll ever get tired of those Brian Windhorst memes.
So
I love
why
them.
is
I think
that?
they're great.
Yeah.
I think they're lovely.
But
Yeah,
this is
that was hilarious.
this is a
That was
tier 5 for
hilarious.
me, just for just the level of stupidity. And then again, people defending ESPN being like, "Oh, ball sack sports should know better not to." Like one of the comments I saw was something along the lines of like, "This is potentially image ruining for Ja Morant." It's like I guarantee Ja Morant woke up Sunday morning or Monday morning whenever this kind of the dust had settled and was like, "Yeah, that was a good one." But like again, didn't say like he wasn't running to Twitter to be like, "Dude, I never said this. Like I would never disrespect Michael." Like he didn't. He knew it was a joke. So just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Again, if anybody thought that John Morant in the first place was, I know I think he said he'd school Michael Jordan, but if you watch the video that I watched or watched the whole interview, it was in like a joking way where he was like, "Yeah, I'd put the clamps on him," and then he, I think afterwards said like, "I have to bet on myself. Like I'm just that confident of a guy." So again, like just go and watch the video. Anybody at ESPN, look at the Twitter account and say this probably isn't the most realistic thing on the planet.
Yeah.
And then for the people defending it, like, come on, you like you've said before, like you have way too much free time on your hands. Do something else. Like this isn't
bored.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't the fake sports accounts fault for putting something out there. Like that's what they do. So like I said, tier 5, just off pure stupidity.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of touched on the N'Keal Harry stuff in the moments of the week, but just one additional thing or two additional things I wanted to add. Patriots wise, Doug Kyed wrote about it and had a couple league sources talking, like I think a scout or two. I don't remember off the top of my head. Don't have it in front of me. Like speak in the article, and he said a league source told him that he thinks Belichick went against the scouts, this being the league source, and it's just kind of interesting to hear another person come out and say that. And we haven't really like heard that, I feel like, outright, but it's interesting to hear that because it wasn't a good pick, and now
kind of strange timing.
The scouts, yeah, it kind of adds up now. So, and just another quick note: Matt Lacoste retired today from professional football. So, I just wanted to, throw that in there as another little Patriots tidbit since we do have a little bit of Patriots talk. But yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't go with the scouts, and he definitely regrets it.
Absolutely, I think that kind of
like. If you were going with the scouts, that's terrible. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean that whole the entire scouting team should be fired if that was the guy you. I mean, maybe that. I mean, there was obviously all the talk when it happened, and it's come out over the years about the AJ Brown stuff. That he thought he was going to be a Patriot. So maybe a comment like that. I don't know if you lean into a little bit more of that someone really messed up along the lines of like it seemed like I was going to say Antonio Brown. AJ Brown thought he was going to be a Patriot. Maybe the scouts were the ones that were saying, "Hey, draft AJ Brown instead of N'Keal Harry." And then this comes out that Bill was the one that wanted, like, that's a really bad look if that's true. And again, I guarantee if you ask Bill about that or somebody asks him, he's not going to give you the whole truth because that'll never happen. But the one question, because it's come up, I think it's a very easy question to ask, and it's been debated over the last couple days. Is this the worst pick in Bill Belichick's era as a Patriot head coach of 100%?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw some. I mean, obviously we weren't. I mean, at least I wasn't, old enough to remember the Dominic Easley pick, but that's kind of the one everyone leans on when they talk about.
Dominic Easley. We were like 17 when he got drafted.
Well, that's but that's true. I don't know who I was thinking of, but obviously horrible player because you don't remember anything about him, or at least I don't.
Do much.
But that was kind of the thing. Everyone thinks that's the worst Belichick pick. There's some people that have asked, so in that case, is N'Keal Harry the worst first round pick in the Bill Belichick era? And I think that's not debatable. It 100% is. Like, you got borderline nothing out of this guy for 2.5, 3 years that he was in the league and on the team. So one less headache you have to deal with. That's kind of the one positive out of this. You don't have to deal with him coming in and, like you said, missing blocks or not running the right routes and dropping easily catchable balls. Like, it's the N'Keal Harry era is over, and it couldn't have ended soon enough.
Yeah, I wish it ended sooner, honestly, because he's bad.
It's very bad.
God, just tweeting this out right now.
The other thing too, for me, real quick, while you do that, I was at work when it broke last night. So my buddy came up and told me they traded him for a 7th round pick. Did not know until I got home that it wasn't even a pick for next year's draft, which I find hilarious too. Like, that to me just is that point of desperation where it's like, can we get anything for this guy? Because he's arguably worth nothing. Like, I've always made the joke, I'll trade him for a sack of used footballs. Like, that's a 2024 seventh round pick might be the equivalent of that. Like I don't know what you're going to get out of that pick.
Probably.
Yeah. But I did see someone on Twitter say, Julian Edelman was a seventh round pick. The Patriots traded N'Keal Harry for a seventh round pick. There go you. I know. But I think it was just like, therefore you traded N'Keal Harry for the next Julian Edelman. So that's something to look forward to. But yeah, there you go. That's a positive spin.
Looking forward to the future.
On
to hockey, we have the draft at the top of things, but I think with free agency, we should start with free agency and then go to the draft after.
I think so. The draft's not going to, I feel like, take just a couple blurbs on a couple guys. But other than that.
Exactly. David Krejci. I mean, there's so much to get to. We might as well start with Krejci. Kind of with the reports over the past, 24 to 48 hours made it seem like it was going to happen soon, and it hasn't. So
is that concerning at all?
No. Okay. I'm really not worried on either player.
Him or Bergeron?
No, I'm really not right now. It's just the only thing is cap space, and I have to imagine that factors into it somewhat. And with the trade today, they're still figuring stuff out with, throughout the day for stuff with that, and signing Zaka now whenever they decide to sign him to have his RFA rights. So so it originally started with Lou Maloney's report on Monday with him saying David Krejci is currently in negotiations to return to the Boston Bruins the morning after he was at a Red Sox game. So that got people all fired up.
Then picked a great game to go to. That walk-off win.
Absolutely.
Brought them good luck. Yeah, that works.
Then Kevin Weeks goes 8:07 p.m. I'm told NHL Bruins and Krejci are currently discussing a 1-year contract term for his potential return to Beantown. It kind of seemed like not like a guarantee that it was going to happen maybe today, but sounded like momentum was pretty good. But when you make a trade for a guy that can potentially play center that you have to sign now, they're figuring it's going to be low salary, a lot of bonuses and incentives. So that probably takes some time to figure out. So we just got to wait for those things. I'm really not worried about either one of them not deciding to come back. I think that's the plan. I think that's where the optimism lies, and that's good. Very much looking forward to having them both back in the mix for obvious reasons. But, you asked me how I'm feeling about Krejci. I want to know how you're feeling, because I have a feeling you might not be in the same boat as me.
I mean, we've talked about this, but I mean, I've kind of come off before. Like you said, we've talked about it where I'm like, it's David Krejci. It's like you keep kicking the can down the road. It's just, you feel like you're delaying the inevitable of this team. I don't know how I want to word it. You just kind of keep going back to the same thing with Krejci. But then I've, had the thought sat down and said, this offseason where they don't have a ton of cap space, as you and I have discussed before, they're kind of handcuffed when it comes to making substantial moves. This was obviously one of the better free agent classes in a while, and you have options like Malkin and guys like Kadri and Truchek, but then you don't have the cap space to get those guys. So Krejci kind of becomes the more, the known, the more affordable. Was that a prayer for them signing Krejci?
For Trocheck in particular, because
that was when I saw that money, I'm like, that's a little.
It's the years
insane.
It's not the money. It's the years.
Oh, really?
29.
Yeah, that's so. It was what, 7? I think 7 or 8.
7. I think it's so dumb that people still sign players to that long of deals.
No, you said that last show that you were wary of that, and then of course day one that goes out and happens. And Trocheck was one of the guys that you said that would probably happen too. So kudos on you for being able to see the future a little bit.
It's just so dumb. Ever since the Hall deal happened, where he signed for 4 years, it just kind of clicked in my head. This is what players in that mold should be getting. They should be getting 4 or 5 year deals instead of not everybody, but 6 and 7 year deals. Of course, that's a huge part of the negotiation. If you want to get the player, a lot of times you have to give them that 7-year term. And then, of course, you can just figure that out if he's declining once you get there. But, and it's just, I'm so glad it wasn't the Bruins. I tweeted this out too. I'm so glad it wasn't the Bruins committing 7 years to a center. It was not the play this offseason. And, for the Jacobs family, I'm sure they would have loved that if Sweeney did that, if they were in a different position cap wise, because their comments recently were saying they just don't anticipate a rebuild. And they don't think the fans would receive that well. So We're just gonna do
Yeah,
this
probably
like
not.
every year, it feels like, until it gets to a point where we absolutely can't. And
Yeah.
right now we can't exactly say when that's gonna be, but we can speculate it's gonna be next year.
Yeah, with
We can
some
safely
things.
speculate it's gonna be next year. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident on Krejci. I think they're just working things out with the trade for Zaka,
Well,
figuring out bonuses and incentives, and just ironing some things out. And hopefully nothing blows up on them here.
Well, that was going to be my question to ask you because Beetle was talking about this, listening to Zolak and Bertrand earlier, and he asked the question, was kind of not concerned, but was like, do you see the Zaka? Because at the time, the Zaka trade was interesting because, like you said, you really didn't know about Krejci, you still don't know about Krejci and Bergeron. So he kind of asked, is this adding an asset or is this, I think he worded it like covering the Bruins' asses in case Krejci, like you just said, doomsday that Krejci doesn't come back or Bergeron doesn't come back. Now you have this guy in the fold. Do you see it as that at all? That, they got Zaka here for, in case for somehow Krejci, things fall apart with him, and now you at least have a guy you can lean back on or fall back on, or is this a guy that you think is just gonna be added and be in the mix to be somewhere within the top 6 or maybe the bottom 6 wherever you see him playing?
Yeah, I saw CJ Turtoro on Twitter. Shout out to him. Mentioned this, like, so they had Hughes and Hischier and have had them for a while now, and Zaka has been able to play center, but hasn't really had that opportunity to with Hughes and Hischier very much. But can he get that opportunity here? And if Patrice Bergeron is here, can he be mentored by Bergeron, or vice versa if it's Krejci and not Bergeron? Yeah, he didn't mention Krejci, but it could be that type of scenario. David Krejci's not a bad guy to learn from in that regard. To me, it is a fallback plan. I saw a lot of people just be like, "Oh, he plays center. He plays center." Like, no, he doesn't. Like,
that was my initial thought, to be honest. Because when I saw it, he was listed as a center, so I'm like, well, that's a little weird.
He's not a center.
But then you told me that he can play, and I saw Evan Marinofsky had it too. That he also plays the wing, so it's like a guy you can kind of throw wherever, and he'll put up a decent amount of points.
He's
like
primarily a wing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's moved up and down the lineup a lot for New Jersey. He's playing the right and the left. I don't know how much center he's played. He can play center, but I don't think it's very much. Anytime I've ever seen him, like a lineup chart or watching the Devils, he's always on the wing. He's always on the wing. And I don't know what the exact percentage of his career he's played center, but I don't think it's very high. So it's kind of like a fallback option. If you need him to play center, you can try him out there. I would prefer him on the second line over Charlie Coyle personally.
Okay.
Even if he's, I think if you're trying to get him acclimated, you want him with Hall and Pasternak ideally to have those cushions on the wing. But he's a wing. And in a fully healthy picture, if Bergeron and Krejci are back, he's your third line left wing. And that's pretty good because
I'd say that works out well.
He's in a situation where he can provide you an upgrade over Trent Frederick on the third line. Absolutely.
I think I feel like a lot of people could do that.
He can be a good fit with Coyle and Smith and maybe help elevate them, which is always good. He's 25. He's coming off I think $2.25 million per year, and he didn't blow anybody away this year. So maybe you get him around 2.8 for 3 or 4 years, 2 years, anywhere from 2.5 to 3 million, I'd expect. So that's fine. That's reasonable for a 25-year-old forward. He's got some size. I feel like his skating has gotten better watching him over the years, which is good. Former 6th overall pick. They can't get away from that 2015 draft. I saw about.
No.
But yeah, he's a guy at the same time has had some hills and valleys. He's not a super consistent point producer. But
I said to you, it's the typical, the prototypical Bruin, but I mean, I like the dice.
Hopefully not, but
yeah, but we'll see. I mean, I don't hate the move. I like it. I mean, it's a deal at least that shows to me that they're trying to. I saw a lot of people kind of say the same thing. They're trying to get younger. I kind of saw it as maybe. I was going to say Bruce Cassidy, maybe Don Sweeney. Depending on how you look at Eric Holla, maybe you saw Don Sweeney thought of him as maybe a mistake that needed to be fixed. With how, the production kind of fell off towards the end of the season. So, we go out and trade him 1-for-1 for this kid that, again, you get younger. It kind of gives you, like you said, you can move him up and down. So I didn't hate the move. At least it shows they're being proactive on day one. They're not doing something completely insane, like going out and, like we've talked about in the past, maybe, trying to spend money they don't have or making a deal that's an overreaction to something. I like it. I think it's, a deal that isn't isn't the craziest on the planet, but it kind of helps and looks like it'll be something that might work out in the long run from an age standpoint. Like you said, 25, it obviously gives him some room to grow. And I'm curious too, like you said, the whole Bergeron aspect. You got to think if he takes a guy like that under his wing, then he's only gonna improve for how long he's here with Bergeron.
The good thing about that is he's got a big body too. So if you can turn him into a center, he could be a pretty solid one. And like I said, he's 25. So like there's still some molding you can do with the player. He's better than Trent Frederick, which I said.
I think just having a guy that doesn't take.
I want to put some emphasis on
a lot of emphasis on.
It was Frederick, Coyle, and Smith were good at points this year, but I think Zacha is a pretty substantial upgrade over Frederick, especially from an offense standpoint.
Well, you just have to ask about does Zacha take stupid penalties too, and if the answer is no, then you have a winner right there.
So he's better than Frederick. He signed AJ Greer today onto a one-way deal. Trent Frederick's got some legit competition now, added.
Maybe to wake him up.
To try and elevate him, which I like. It's an interesting trade, and they probably weren't going to keep Eric Howler around next summer. He's a UFA, so you sell high on him for a 25-year-old forward. I'll take it. I don't love the player. I think there's some hills and valleys, but I think more likely than not, you get a serviceable middle six forward, and that's fine with me. But yeah, ever since they were kind of linked, could the Bruins trade for Pavel Zacha a few months ago, I feel like, and at times in the past, I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. That feels like a Sweeney move. And I just kind of forgot about the name for 2 months. And they're like, oh, you were the person that freaking broke the news to me. I was working and I see a text from you that said Zacha. I was like, wait, what?
I was sitting in the drive-through line at Dunks when it broke on the radio. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, I sort of expected it to involve Mike Riley, but
yeah, I was surprised it was Holla because as we were trying to figure out, we're like, well, what the hell could be going back? Like you said,
you're not trading draft picks at this point. I really doubt that.
Well, that's because my big concern too, I think I texted you it too, was I didn't know this guy was an RFA, so technically doesn't have a number next to his name yet, contract wise and money wise. But that was my kind of thing is what are you giving up that's going to make this salary work? Because obviously we've talked about before, and I'm sure we'll talk about later, that you're still, as you mentioned with the whole Bergeron and Krejci thing, you're still strapped for cash. So that was my big thing, but it makes sense. Like you said, Holla probably not going to be here next year. And again, I think that maybe Don Sweeney might want to, again, it depends on how you look at Holla, right or wrong per se, or however you want to look at it, and try, something different with Zacha.
Yeah, I'll see what they do, but they've certainly got some options. Patrice Bergeron, who we've spoken about a little bit, the latest on him from Renaud Lavoie. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. It's Renaud. He's French Canadian though, so I imagine it might be Renaud.
Put some accents and yeah.
Sorry if you're listening. In an interview with TVA Sports, Patrice Bergeron said he's not ready to confirm his return to Boston and that his reflection is not over. I am surprised to see this, but I'm not at the same time. It kind of seemed like we're making momentum, but he's got a huge decision to make. Are
you concerned at all? Because a couple weeks ago, I think we talked about it on the show, was it seemed like it was pretty cut and dry. He was coming back. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, and I saw people on Twitter were like, it's a little weird that day one of free agency, now he's kind of back to that he doesn't know. So I saw there was some red flags raised there. I don't know if you felt the same way. I think you just alluded to it, that it's a massive decision for him. So it's not something that is going to take a little bit more time to figure out.
And speaking of Bergeron and Zacha's going to need a new number if Bergeron comes back, because he wore 37 in New Jersey.
That's true.
So interested to see what he'll take there. Maybe he'll just take Hal's number and rock 56.
There you go. Take 73 and flip it.
Yeah, honestly. But let's see here.
There's some minor moves. Kurt Lazar is gone. Josh Brown's gone. Yeah.
So what was I going to say about Bergeron? I had no thought about Bergeron.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I think him and Krejci are kind of leaning on each other. They're kind of there has to have been some communication. They're obviously, we can tell from the base level, they're figuring things out contract detail wise. They might kind of be there's some cap space that needs to be freed. We can just wait a little bit. And yeah, I mean, it goes back to Bergeron too. It's a huge decision. He's 36, but he's 36 and he's played since he's 18. He's been in the league since 2003. The guy's played hockey for
still crazy to think about.
Time. practically our whole lives.
Mhm.
My whole existence as like a sentient sports fan. Like, it's a huge decision, and I can't really blame him. But who knows? We could get the decision tomorrow. We could get it in a week. So we'll see
Get
what
it
happens
2 minutes
there.
after we finish up tonight. That's how
Yeah,
it usually goes.
honestly, but I don't think
Knock
we're
on
going to
wood.
have that happen today.
Mhm.
Given Matt Porter from the Globe saying not expecting the Bruins to announce Bergeron or Krejci signings today, as best as I
Oh,
can
well, there you
tell,
go.
they're still in talks. Yeah, I mean, I think they're just ironing some things out. So I have no real reason to like, outside of obviously it being not ready to make his decision yet is a little concerning. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna like freak out about it because Sweeney and Neely have been open, like that they're optimistic about things, that they're working things out. I believe them. So yeah, Don Sweeney specifically said nothing's changed. There's no update as of right now in terms of finalizing anything. As I referenced the other day, I think we're in a good place with Patrice. So that's good. Kind of the same type of thing he said at the draft. Just the timing of working out the details of his contract, allowing him to declare that he's good to go. Could be any time frame here, any time frame there. He's the only one that's going to make that final announcement. He has the final say. On Krejci, we've had numerous discussions throughout the day. I'm going to try and find some common ground here. Remains positive, but I just don't have a clear-cut answer for you. Kind of expected. On Pavel Zacha, we feel there's growth and potential moving forward. We hope to be able to find a deal and make him a part of the organization now and beyond. That remains to be seen. How long that is, we'll attack that and continue on Zacha. Just felt like it was an opportunity for now and potentially moving forward that we identified a player that could fit in that we're excited about. So works for me. We'll see
Mhm.
what the Zacha deal looks like. I think I have an idea what I just mentioned around what it'll look like. I don't think we're looking at a long-term deal. He's still proving himself and he's still fairly young. So, yeah. Something I'm not really going to go in depth on because I haven't been there, but worth mentioning is that development camps are going on. But Fabian Lysell, Mason Lohrei, I haven't been there, but a lot of new guys are there. Well, all the new guys in the draft class and some invites. So looks like it's been a cool week for them. Matthew, I'm already forgetting how to say his name because I saw it. I thought it was Poitras at first, but it's like Poitra or Potra.
Oh, the kid they drafted.
Yeah, he said getting a text from Bergeron was surreal, and he had to check the area code to make sure it was legit.
Hmm.
Bruce Bergeron texting a Bruins prospect.
I was just gonna say that kind of I feel like has to. We wouldn't do that if you're like, hey, good luck. I'm going away. Like, have
Yeah,
fun.
see ya.
Yeah. Congrats on being drafted. I'm not coming back. Wait, what? Could you break
Yeah.
that news for me, please? Kid that has never played the NHL before. Just tell Don that I'm not coming back. All right, thanks.
There's
Bye.
like you got like Evan Marinovsky or Connor Ryan or Ty Anderson like interviewing him. He's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Bergeron just texted me. He's not coming back."
And he's like, yeah, guys, right here. I got it in writing. Not
Could
coming
you
back.
imagine? Could you
That would
imagine?
that'd be so
Oh
fucked.
my god, that would be fucked up.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we're both in the camp. We're not super worried. You're a little bit looking at things a little bit different in some regards than me, but
Mhm.
yeah, the trade overall pretty good. Not too worried on those, but additional signings. The interesting one of the depth signings is the one-way deal for 2 years that AJ Greer got. They love their BU guys here. AJ Greer comes back to Boston. He grew up playing for the Junior Bruins too, which is cool. Like I said, he's Trent Frederick competition. So light a
Works for
fire under
me.
Trent Frederick's
If it
ass.
gets,
And
I
I
was
mean,
just gonna
AJ Greer is
say,
a good player. He's fine. He hasn't really cracked it in the NHL yet, but he had a really good season in the AHL this year, almost a point per game. He's a big forward. He plays hard, good around the net. So he'll compete with Trent Frederick and maybe steal Trent Frederick's spot. Who knows?
wouldn't
That
be the
is
worst thing. Like you
yeah.
said, some competition, light a fire under his ass, and
And
get
he's
him to
been through
figure it out.
waivers before. If you need to send him down, I don't think anybody's going to be like super eager to be like, oh, we have to claim this guy.
Mhm.
So it might have just been one of those things too, where they like his agent's talking with Sweeney. He's like, we really want a one-way. If you want us, you got to give us a one-way contract. And that's fine. It's whatever. Like it was a little surprising, but it's whatever to me. I like a Dan Renouf or Renoff. No, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Kind of like a tougher AHL defenseman, good depth guy that can, stick up for the young guys if he needs to.
Is he a
like
goon?
that.
Did they get their fighter?
I guess he is kind of like a fighter. So
Okay.
if they need to call
Good.
him a bruiser, they can call
They
him
got their enforcer.
Dan the man. So he'll be a good AHL depth guy for 2 years there. Vinny Lettieri. I like Vinny Lettieri. He's a really good call-up option if you need him. He plays hard and he's really fast and just kind of plays like a maniac. So I like him. He's been bouncing around with like the Rangers and the Ducks and I think maybe a couple other teams the past few years. Connor Carrick, he has a podcast. I didn't know that till today. Maybe we should get him on the pod.
I was going to say,
that would be cool.
do a little team up.
It's possible, but maybe we'll get him on the pod. He's bounced around, but he's good at right shot defense depth, which they need. So that'll be good. Adding some good veterans to Providence to help the young guys there. And Keith Kincaid, a guy from all accounts I've seen over the past few years, is beloved by his teammates. So I love that for two young goalies in the minors, Keyser and Bussy. Gives them a veteran that can take some pressure off of them and gives them like a little bit of the three-headed monster down there. So I like it. Should be a good mentor for those guys. And is a good call-up option if you need him for whatever reason. So I like it.
I have a question about Kincaid. You already answered to me personally, but for the people listening, because it is a goalie that does have some NHL experience, and we've talked about before that the Bruins have some cap problems. Do you think he pushes Omar? If the Bruins have to crunch some numbers here, Mark maybe becomes available because we've seen some goalies move. Is Kincaid a guy that is you comfortable at all? Maybe if the Bruins do move Omar, having as the backup, or is he strictly a Providence guy?
Strictly a Providence guy, call-up guy to me. Could it make sense to move on from Allmark? Yes. But
like I said, from a money standpoint, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Swayman love each other.
That too. Like you run the risk of me. I don't know, not crushing Swayman or anything like that, because like it is part of the business. But like I get where you're coming from that standpoint.
Yeah, and it's a 1-year deal, and Kincaid's a veteran, so like he's played in the AHL with Hartford the past 2 years now. He's going to be a good AHL goalie for them. And that's solid for me. I like the depth signings. I didn't expect 5 of them, but good depth signings. I hope they don't block young players getting call-up opportunities too much, but it's good guys if you need them. And I like the idea of Vinny Lettieri. I think he's going to battle for an NHL roster spot. Probably not get one, but he's going to, put a good showing out there in camp. The guy kind of plays like a maniac. So I like him. I like the signings. Good overall day for the Bruins. Honestly, just hoping for Bergeron and Krejci to sign sooner rather than later, because that would be pretty good. Former Bruins signing, or now former Bruins, Curtis Lazar, 3 years, $3 million for with the Vancouver Canucks. Good deal for him. Not quite the Corrali money, but it's another Bruin getting a multi-year deal from the fourth line to another team. So he goes to Vancouver. Josh Brown goes 2 years to Arizona, which is a signing for depth and to get to the cap floor. I didn't even see I don't think the financials have been released.
I haven't seen any money or anything. I was looking at the free agency tracker that we have from the Full Press Hockey website, and there wasn't anything on that either. So
yeah, I haven't seen anything looking around otherwise either. Jesper Froden joins Carson Kuhlman with the Seattle Kraken. Kuhlman actually signed a 1-year extension the other day as well. So they're both in Seattle. Guy wants to play in the NHL. I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity in Seattle. Yeah. He's got some guys to compete with, but like not like a huge daunting cast of characters. Maybe he makes his way into that roster, but not really a guarantee, but hopefully he, gets that shot he wants. And Stephen Fogarty, a guy we saw a little bit, he signed 2 years, $1.5 million total, $750K per with the Minnesota Wild. So yep, you lose some depth players, you replace them. So works for me. Business. Clean cut. Again, now we just wait on Bergeron and Krejci. Wait on a potential Mike Riley trade. I don't think the idea of Jake DeBrusk getting traded is very likely anymore, but they could decide to do that.
Foligno buyout question mark?
No, that's not happening anymore. Buyout period's over right now. So.
Oh, is it? All right, never mind then.
Yeah, they're just not going to do it. It's really
gosh darn it.
Me. But as much as it gives you that 1.9 or about 1.9 savings this year, they would take a cap penalty next year of like just around $900K. So I guess there's some merit to it, but I would have done it if I were GM. I would have just been like, hey, go
bite the bullet and yep.
But Don Sweeney also doesn't want to be like, I made a mistake.
Like, oops, shouldn't have brought this guy in. Wasn't good. Didn't work out since day one. Sorry.
Yeah, and one of the guys he brought in that did work out for the most part, they traded today. So
so go figure.
Good trade, but they did trade him. And Bergeron likes Foligno. So I don't think it's in your best interest to get rid of Foligno right now, even though I would.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. We are both in agreement that we would just get out of here, go away.
Patrice Bergeron could handle it.
I think so.
He's mature enough.
Yep.
But yeah, decent amount going around with the Bruins. Nothing to really complain about besides the obvious,
No.
waiting on the top two centers.
Mhm.
It's been an eventful day outside of that in the NHL. Evgeny Malkin looked like he was going to hit the open market and sign somewhere else, maybe with the Rangers. That's where I was thinking he was going to go and spur
That
the
would have been
Penguins.
crazy.
But he went back to Pittsburgh. If Sidney Crosby really made his way into the process towards the end, it sounds like, and convinced him to come back. And they gave him that fourth year they were stubborn on. So Crosby must have been a pretty good negotiator.
Mhm.
Rickard Rakell also resigns in Pittsburgh. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say, if Sidney Crosby approached you and was like, "Hey, I want this guy here," it's probably a guy you should listen to. He's pretty accomplished. Just done some things in the NHL that has looked pretty highly at. So you might want to listen to that guy.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Rickard Rakell resigns in Pittsburgh, 6 years, $30 million. A little bit of an overpay, but shouldn't be like egregious. 6 years. We'll see how that holds up for them. Evander Kane resigns in Edmonton. They get that cap relief from the Duncan Keith retirement and trading Zach Kassian in that cap dump. So they sign Evander Kane.
How long before he blows all that money? Sorry.
You never know with him. You really never know with him.
Sorry. Did I cross a line there? My bad.
No.
All right.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I hope somebody gets a chuckle out of that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good.
Yeah.
He's really the perfect winger for Connor McDavid. He proved that this year. He's going to score a ton of goals this upcoming season, and Edmonton's going to be really good again if Jack Campbell can play good. So Darren Helm resigns in Colorado. Jack Campbell goes to Edmonton, reunites with his buddy Zach Hyman, which Hyman was excited about. A lot of Leafs guys were upset to see Campbell go, but they didn't really show much desire to keep Jack Campbell. And they offered him like 3 years and 2.75 per during the season. And I think that was like one of the only offers they've given him, to my knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong. But Ilya Samsonov also goes, well, speaking of Toronto, he goes to Toronto on a 1 year, $1.8 million deal as the 1B. So it's kind of like Matt Murray, see what he can do. Ilya Samsonov, see what he can do. They're battling for starts. Maybe, Samsonov earns himself a shot somewhere else for a longer term next summer. But interesting deal there. Didn't expect him to go to Toronto. Claude Giroux to Ottawa. Really nice pickup. Ottawa's putting things together pretty nicely. But to me, they still need a top pairing right shot defenseman because they don't have a good one. They're trying to make things work. They're going to still be active. So we'll see if it's John Klingberg, even though Dallas is back in on him. If it's Mackenzie Weegar, he might be traded, but he played left defense with Aaron Ekblad. I was going to say completing a top pair in the league, but putting together a top pair in the league with Aaron Ekblad, but that'd be a tough trade for Florida to have to make, but there's also contract implications for the future there as well. Left shot defenseman, but he plays right, so I think he'd make the transition and play with Thomas Chabot quite well because Thomas Chabot has not had a good defensive partner for a few years now, and he's still just carries the team on his back. So if he gets a good pairing for him, I think he'll be even better, and that's in the best interest of the Ottawa Senators as they continue to try to get into the playoffs. Ian Cole signs with Tampa Bay for 1 year, $3 million. Brendan Smith to New Jersey. Nick Leddy, 4 years to St. Louis. Pretty dumb. I don't think Nick Leddy's very good, but sucks to suck. St. Louis, that's going to be a bad contract. Don't feel bad for you. Curtis Lazar, as we mentioned, Vincent Trocheck to the Rangers. 7 years, $39.375 million. Gross. Andrew Copp,
disgusting contract.
Yeah. Oh, man, but they got desperate.
That's one of those ones that seems like it's going to like burst into flames 3 years in, if that, maybe two, if Trocheck takes a turn for the worse when he gets up there in age.
4 years. I'll say 4 years in, it really starts to get bad. I think Trocheck will be good for a few more years, but 7 years for any 29-year-old is dicey.
That seems like an eternity in that league. Sorry to keep cutting you off, but
it really is. Especially, if you're 29. So it's not great. Andrew Copp to Detroit. Used to play at Michigan. He's from Michigan. Makes a lot of sense.
Makes sense. Yep.
You get him at the same AAV as Trocheck for 2 less years. I am taking that if I'm Detroit. And they did. It's a really nice pickup. He can play center. He can play wing. He plays with, not like anger, but he plays with some tenacity, plays physical.
Passion.
Has really gotten better year by year over the past few years. So I think this has potential to work out really well for Detroit. And I really like what they're doing. So that's another big one. But man, there's just a lot more. It's been an eventful day, especially now that we have the Goudreau news. Let's run through some more, shall we? Hayden Fleury just recently signed with Tampa Bay. We had the Johnny Gaudreau news. That's huge. Let's see the other big ones. I go to Cap Friendly real quick. We had Valeri Nichushkin. This is before free agency open, but he signs an 8-year extension with Colorado. Huge deal. Like that deal. Could age kind of poorly, but I mean, he's an absolute moose right now. So you got to lock him up. He's just an absolute force for them this year. Victor Olofsson, 2 more years with Buffalo. I like that deal for them. He's practically just a power play guy, though. Still got to get him better at even strength. Let's see. Who are the other big ones? Max Domi to Chicago for 1 year, $3 million. Andres Athanasiou for the same. Chicago's got to make some moves. They can't just have all rookies on their team pretty much next year, just young players. So Ilya Mikheyev to Vancouver. Didn't expect him to go to Vancouver, but he gets a nice deal. Leaves Toronto. See how that works out. Not a bad deal, but not one I think they absolutely needed to sign personally. Yar Halak, former Bruins backstop, lands in New York with the Rangers. Potentially gets himself a Stanley Cup as a backup. That would be cool for Yarrow, if not the Bruins, because that would be the preferable thing. Adam Gaudette, the Braintree kid from Ottawa to Toronto. So he's staying in Canada. Frank Vetrano, former Bruin, 3 years to Anaheim. I like that pickup for them. I think he could feast there. Some really good passers, particularly Trevor Zegras. Mason McTavish will be in the mix as well. Like that deal a lot. Vlad Nemestikov goes back to Tampa. Nice pickup for them. They got to replenish a little bit because they're not signing Palat. Brett Kulak stays in Edmonton. I like that for them. He fit in really well. The big trio of contract extensions: Eric Chernak, Mikhail Sergachev, and Anthony Cirelli all sign 8-year extensions.
Where's all this money coming from?
It all kicks in next year. They just worry about that next year, baby. Chernak,
they keep getting away with this.
I don't know. How do they keep getting away with this? $6.25 million per for Cirelli and $8.5 for Sergachev. I think that is a little bit of an overpay because I don't think he's worth that yet, but he could be. Why wouldn't you just wait until you see if he is that though? But at the same time, you want to get that done before sooner rather than later if you can. And they did. Cirelli, great value. Chernak, maybe a little bit of an overpay, but he's 25. Like, he's probably going to be worth somewhere close to that. He's been really good early on in his career. Sergachev, not quite worth $8 million and $8.5 million in my mind yet, but he could be that guy, playing a bigger role now with McDonough in Nashville. So we'll see what happens there. Brennan Lemieux stays in LA. He's a loser. Darcy Kemper goes to Washington. So the Stanley Cup winning netminder signs with Washington Capitals. They cleaned house in the crease with Vanacek going to New Jersey and Samsonov going to Toronto. So they signed Darcy Kemper for 5 years and $26.25. Brendan Smith to New Jersey. Mason Marchment spurns the Carolina Hurricanes, which I like, and signs with the Dallas Stars. I like that picker for the Dallas Stars. I've been huge on Marchment ever since, right before the expansion draft when I was saying Seattle should have taken him. Dallas is going to get a good player that hasn't reached his ceiling yet, but he had a really good season with Florida. I like to pick up. They lose Alexander Radulov going back to Russia. So they signed Mason Marchment. Tidy piece of business. Nola Chari going to St. Louis.
Pain.
The guy, the trip from Bozak, and now he's on the same
now he's teammates with him.
Bozak. It stung with Krug when that happened. Now Achari, the center of the most infamous moment in that series.
Yep.
Stings.
That's a locker room meeting. Hey, how's it going? Sorry for what happened. Yep, sorry for what happened. All right, move on.
It's like Robert Thomas when Krug got there. Speaking of Robert,
that's what Thomas, I mean. Yeah,
he got the big boy money because he is really good. So that's good piece of business by St. Louis. They locked him up, I think, 8 years, 8.125, I think it was per. Big deal. He's becoming one of the better passers in the whole league. He's very good, and he's probably just going to get better. So Colin Blackwell to Chicago, another signing they had to make to, get some bodies in there. Let's see who else we got. Eric Goodbranson, the worst signing of the day. I don't know what Columbus is doing here. 4 years, $16 million for Eric Goodbranson is completely ludicrous. He's just not good. He really isn't.
Well, they must
He's
think
a
he
third
is.
pairing defenseman. He made 1.95 last year for some reason. I don't know why. Eric Goodbranson is worth like $1 million. Maybe only $4 million.
Jesus.
Dom Lashishin, I don't know how to pronounce it. The guy with all the Y's and the U's and the Z's and shit in his name from The Athletic.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest writers out there for hockey Twitter. Great follow. Put it as a C, I think a C minus, a C fit, and an F minus contract, and just said, "What the hell?"
That's great.
Yeah, him,
F minus. I didn't know they went that low.
Sean Gentile and Shayna Goldman put out some grades on The Athletic today.
The minus seems like you're just doing that to be a dick. Like,
you have to.
The F is, I get, all right.
Really bad sign.
You know more about the player than I do, but it's just like, it's already an F. Do you really have to make it? It's like making it an F plus. Like, it's just the plus and minus are necessary. What are we doing here?
It's so bad. I don't think we mentioned this in the last show. Philip Forsberg signed an extension like a week ago now. Here's $8.5 million per. That's a nice piece of business for Nashville. He just feels like Nashville at this point. It would have been weird to see him anywhere else. Jan Ruda leaves Tampa for Pittsburgh for 3 years. Like that pickup for Pittsburgh. Burakovsky goes to Seattle for 5 years. Really like that. I have to imagine the idea of playing with Matty Beniers and or Shane Wright for the next few years appealed to him. So that's good. Don't really blame him, and he got the bag. So good for him.
All works out in the end.
Mark Stahl goes to Florida, and his brother signs a PTO. So maybe both the Stahl brothers will be playing in sunny Florida next year. Shane Wright, speaking of him, signs his entry-level deal. So did Yaroslav Slavkovsky. So did Marco Kasper for some top picks. David Riddick signs with Winnipeg. Don't know why anybody would honestly sign him. He's just terrible. Dakota Joshua, interesting depth signing for Vancouver. Could see him making his way into their lineup this year. Kind of a guy that might be on the verge of a little bottom six breakout. Dominic Kubalik to Detroit, like that pickup for them, could recover some game there. Colin White to Florida after getting bought out. The Hanover kid, shout out. David Perron, 2 years to Detroit. I like that pickup for them. Good veteran leader for a young team trying to take the next step. Only 2 years as well. So whatever he wants to do after that. Brett Sini to Chicago.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. Goes to Chicago, like that for them. Could be in the mix for some roster time this year, but maybe more of a call-up guy. Let's see. Nick Delorier to Philly. Didn't expect him to get 4 years. Philly just doing a lot of dumb shit, trading for Tony DeAngelo, buying out a guy who survived cancer. And so
some
Philly going Philly.
Idiotic moves, to say the least.
Bringing Justin Braun back, like they don't know what they're doing. I've talked about it before. Chuck Fletcher is a fucking horrible GM.
They're just going for the dumpster fire offseason. We obviously talked about the Tortorella signing when that happened, or hiring, however you want to word it, and then it's just been all downhill since then.
It's so brutal, like what they're doing with this team. Like, luckily for them, the DeAngelo thing is only 2 years, but like they just signed a top right shot defense prospect out of college and Ronnie Attard, and now they have nowhere to play him. So like, what's the point?
Makes sense.
And then Ryan Ellis, whenever he comes back, you have to get him in the mix. It's a whole mess in Philly, and they're going to be bad again. And they honestly deserve it based off of Chuck Fletcher, hopefully for their sake, losing his job. Like, he's so bad at it. Like, it's so embarrassing. I'd be so embarrassed if I was a Flyers fan. It's just so tough. Justin Braun goes back there. Colin Miller goes to Dallas for 2 years. Let's see, because we keep scrolling here. Martin Jones goes to Seattle. I don't really get that because they have 2 NHL goalies and they have Joey Decord in the minors. Don't really get that one at all, to be honest with you. And he's just not good. So Austin Zarnik, former Bruin, lands in Detroit for his next stop. Justin Schultz goes from Washington to Seattle for 2 years. Nick Cousins to Florida. Who else? Arturi Lehkonen signs an extension with Colorado, further making it look like that Nazem Kadri is going to play elsewhere. We haven't seen anything yet, though. Marcus Johansson stays in Washington. They got tons of forwards. They got some shit to figure out there with how they want their lineup to look. The Josh Brown contract is $1.275 million per. So now we know that. We were talking about that earlier. Eric Comrie to Buffalo should get some NHL time this year. 26-year-old goalie. could end up being pretty good. Hasn't really gotten an opportunity yet. Yuri Slafkovsky signs his entry-level deal, number 1 pick in the draft. And yeah, I think we're caught up pretty good. Didn't want to obviously read every single one, but yeah, nothing really big has come out since the start of the show, like super crazy. Colin Delia, though, goes to Vancouver. Forgot to mention that one. Another Merrimack guy on the move.
Yep. I thought I saw that on Twitter somewhere.
Starter.
I was going to ask when you were all set where he ended up because I didn't see what the team was.
Yeah, he'll be their AHL starter probably. So we'll see what happens there. Could be in the mix of the backup spot, though, as Yara Halak's no longer there. Who's competing with Spencer Martin and Mikey DiPietro. Riley Smith signed a 3-year, $5 million per deal with Vegas. They traded Max Pacioretty.
Did they really?
They traded Max Pacioretty for nothing, along with Dylan Coughlin to Carolina, which sucks.
Yep.
For nothing. For future considerations, they traded Nick Suzuki, Tomas Tatar, and a second-round pick a few years ago for Max Pacioretty, and now trade him for nothing. They don't have cap space. Bruce Cassidy probably doesn't love that, I imagine. Jack Eichel probably doesn't love that, I imagine. Vegas is a mess. They are
poor
a mess.
Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah, that's not lovely. A lovely thing to do to your
new head coach. Yeah.
But yeah, I tried to run through those as quickly and without rambling as much as possible. So that's what we got right now. We talked about the Goudreau signing too for anybody who missed it. That was crazy. Didn't expect that. Marcus Johansson sticking around. One of the more recent ones is cool. Sticking around in Washington, a guy who's been there for quite some time now. So they got to sort some things out, though, because they traded for Connor Brown. They traded a second-round pick, and they got a lot of friggin' wingers. So I don't know what exactly they're going to end up doing, but we shall see. It's a lot of talking. We're not done yet, though, baby.
Get ready for more of it, because the draft is also your I'm just kind of guessing and knowing some of these. You know way more about this kind of stuff than I do, so this is all you again.
I do, and I will give what I know. Pick 54, Matthew Poitras for the Guelph Storm. Didn't expect them to take him. Was hoping for Danny Zilkin, who was still on the board, but not a bad pick. Maybe some second-line center upside there. Probably a pretty good third-line center. Getting a text from Treese Bergeron is pretty cool, but he's just branded as a guy that's like super hard worker. Seems like one of the guys they like those third-line type of guys.
Just say you don't look too happy about this pick or too excited.
It's just not like a guy that has like a super exciting skill set in terms of like high-end skill, but he is a really good player. Like he is a good player, but I see him topping out probably as a third-line center. Maybe there's a 2 center in there, but I don't see it. But it's also very early and he can get better. So
I was going to say,
I like the pick. It's not like, I'm not saying it's like an F grade pick. I'd give it probably like a B-.
Oh,
B-, maybe C+.
My one thing I was going to say, so what are you telling me, that picks 55, 6, and 7 are going to be studs and pick 54 is another? No, I'll keep throwing that joke out there until I die, until it's not funny anymore, or it's not relatable or topical, whatever you want to word it, because who knows?
Yeah, let's have a looky who went at those picks now. So to expect Elias Salmonson, one of the guys I talked about, went 55, but I'm okay with them passing on him because Poitras is a center. Rieger Lorenz and Ryan Green, the guy I predicted them to take.
Oh,
So he went to Chicago. So,
they passed up on a BU, right?
Yeah.
They passed up on a BU guy. What team am I watching?
Yeah. God. Oh, man.
Did you hurt yourself? What happened?
Catch my breath a little bit here.
Gotcha.
Cole Spicer from Seattle. They made a trade down from 91, the Vladar pick, to get Cole Spicer at 117 and eventually another player I'll get to in a second at 132. I like Cole Spicer a lot. He plays his bag off. He's a little undersized. He's a center. He's going to UMD, which plays hard. From what I read from a couple of guys, don't remember off the top of my head. When he was playing with top-end competition on the U.S. team, he kept up pretty well, so that's a good sign. And UMD is a good landing spot for him. They have really good coaching, a lot of success in the tournament in recent years, and I like the spot for him. It'll be with Quinn Olson, who's a Bruins prospect there, so maybe they'll be line mates. That would be cool. Don's or Dan's Lochmel. I'm going to go with Don's because he's Latvian. I had no idea who he was beforehand, but
there's a
I'm
Bruins
intrigued.
pick for you.
Seems like he's a center, decent size and some skill. Feels like a PJ Axelson pick, with the guys over in Sweden. Played for Luleå in the Swedish Hockey League. So I like it. It seems like a guy, worth taking a gamble on in the mid rounds. We'll see how he does. But maybe he ends up being a guy like Jelvik, who they took next year, who evaluates his option and maybe goes to the NCAA next year. Maybe gets an offer somewhere and decides to come over to North America and play. Maybe that's the plan for him. We'll see. Frederick Brunet can play left defense and center. He's on the Rimouski Oceanic. He's a smooth
Hell of a
skater.
combination.
Fits the mold, that typical modern day puck mover mold. Good skater, good puck mover. I like him, what I've seen so far. Can't hurt in the middle rounds, nothing to really dislike. And he's trained with Patrice Bergeron in the past. So maybe
a lot of Patrice Bergeron connections here. It's again, I don't think that's not a coincidence, I feel like.
Yeah. Let's see what happens here. Let's Bergeron give Sweeney his blessing here or something on this pick? I don't know. Maybe he did. Round 6 pick 183, Reed Dick from the
Go ahead. Sorry. I'll
share.
I was going to say, I need this guy in the NHL the next couple of years so I can hear Jack Edwards yell out, "Saved by Dick."
Ridiculous. I think Ty Anderson asked him about if it's tough having his last name being Dick, but
both are horrible. It's either Dick or I don't even want to say the other one.
The first thing I thought of when they took him was Noah Dick from Letterkenny.
Yeah.
Yep. Jonathan Torrens, also known as J-Rock from Trailer Park Boys.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really funny. He's an interesting player. He's a big goalie. He's 6'4", adds good organizational goalie depth. Sounds like a guy, I heard the blurb on NHL Network about him, capable of spectacular saves, like these crazy flashy saves, but kind of needs to reel it in at times. It's a project goalie, and it's pick 183 in the draft. So what are you
I have such a dirty mind.
It's
just he's flashy and I don't know. Needs to reel it in at times, reel in the that's a flashy save right there.
Oh no, stop.
Yep. I need this kid in the NHL. I need it now. If things go bad for the Bruins in the next couple of years, I just need to call this kid up for shits and giggles. It'll make things so much more enjoyable.
Oh my God. Reed Dick. Goodness gracious.
Then the next kid they drafted was named after the play-by-play guy. Won the draft this year. Sorry.
Oh man.
This is the insight I give to the hockey segment.
The Bruins drafted a Dick.
Yep.
Oh.
And then they drafted Jack Edwards.
Then they drafted Jack Edwards. Jack Edwards with a mustache. With the Ottawa pick.
Oh God, so dumb.
Jackson Edward, left shot defenseman from the London Knights. Pretty good program, I'd say, in the OHL. Yep. He likes to hit. He's a decent puck mover. That's the billing I've seen. Fine with the pick. It's a 200 overall pick. Nothing really to complain about. It's a good draft. They emphasize the center position, and that's what I wanted them to do. They had another pick, but they traded it to LA, who took Caleb Lawrence, who's 6'7", 215 pounds. He's a forward. Speaking of big guys, Detroit drafted a kid I'm drawing the blank of the name of. He's a 6'8", 190-pound center.
My God.
Yeah.
Big seems lad. Big good luck squaring off against that guy in the face-off, Todd. Holy crap.
I saw a video of him at Detroit development camp, just absolutely
shoving guys over.
They can't get the puck off him. Jackson Edward, nice pick to cap it off. They emphasize the center position. So overall, I'm giving the Bruins a B in the draft. I think they could have done better on some picks, maybe gotten some higher upside, but they did fine. They emphasized the center position, and that was my main thing. I wanted them to draft multiple centers, and they did. So they drafted a guy that can play center and defense.
That's still wild to me. It's like the baseball thing where you see a left-handed pitcher who also can play shortstop get drafted. It's what, how you decide to do that is kind of beyond me. But I'm with you. I mean, I kind of shared the same. I don't want to repeat what you said, but kind of the same thing. They needed obviously to. I think I'm pretty sure it was you on Twitter that said it. Restock the cupboard type of thing. So yeah, I'm fine with it. Again, I don't know really a lot about any of these players, so what you just told me. So kind of in wait and see mode with a lot of these guys. But the fact, like you said, they went out and obviously saw a position of need and that they were weak at, and went out and drafted what 4 or 5 centers out of the
Yeah.
6 picks or so they had. So that I'm fine with that 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, how can you not be? I mean, at the same time, we just drafted them. We don't know what they're going to turn into.
Exactly.
Like,
No idea
let's
what's
be
coming.
optimistic. Unless they just reached on every single pick, which they didn't. Quattro was a little bit of a reach, but like nothing crazy. Like he was probably expected to go like 60 to 75 range. They took him at 54. They clearly like the player a lot. It's fine with me. It's fine with me. They took centers. That's good. Reactions to the draft now. Slavkovsky first, Nemec second. Very cool. First time 2 Slovakians have gone in the top 2. Nemec would have probably been Slavkovsky if Slavkovsky wasn't taken first overall. So Slavkovsky would have been a devil, but they go with the defenseman instead of a forward. Good pickup. They're probably not going to keep Devin Severson long term. They emphasize the right D position a lot. They drafted Nemec, Seamus Casey, and Charlie Leddy, who's going to be C next year. So that's cool. Charlie Leddy, not known for scoring goals, didn't score a single goal last year, but he's just a good stay-at-home guy from what I've seen. Nemec number 2. Yep, really cool, really cool. Not cool for Seattle though, even though they did get Shane Wright. They loved Nemec. Arizona gets Cooley at 3. One of the few picks I got right. I got Juracek right at 6 as well. Cutter Gauthier, the BC Golden Boy. 2 Philly at 5. Really nice pick. I think some Philly fans are a little torn on that one. They wanted Juracek, but I think Gauthier is going to be a pretty good player. Shane Wright's going to be pissed off. He claims he wasn't staring at the Montreal table.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. He's playing with a chip on his shoulder. And he came into the draft saying, I'm the best player in the draft. Stuff along the lines of that. Kevin Korchinski, not who I would have taken with the DeBrincat pick, but they apparently really like him. I would have drafted Kamel or Savoy or Frank Nazar. A guy that can potentially directly replace Alex DeBrincat someday, but I guess not. They must really like Korchinski. Marco Casper just feels like a Detroit pick. Matthew Savoy, I had going to Detroit, so missed there. I'm not going to run through all these. Don't worry, but Denton Matejchuk, really nice value at 12. Frank Nazar, really nice value at 13. I think he could have went higher. Rucker McGroarty jumped up. Winnipeg must have really liked him. Jonathan Lekramacky and Joakim Kamel, potentially the 2 steals of the draft. Dropped to 15 and 17. Lekramacky is going to be a really nice fit in that high-octane offense they're building in Vancouver. Kamel to Nashville. I mean, they could use a scoring winger in that prospect group. Kamel gives them that. Let's see. Ivan Miroshnichenko, the guy who's, at least for now, beaten his Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that's awesome. And he goes to Washington. Great place to go. Seen by some going into the last few years, the next Ovechkin potentially, and he goes to Washington. So they're really
cool
good
moment.
Russians in that team. He's a great player. I hope everything goes good for his health in the future, and he turns into the stud he absolutely can become. So awesome for him. Awesome moment. I forget there was a cool video of him meeting up with one of the other draft picks and like sharing a moment there. That was really cool. Just them kind of like hugging it out and congratulating one another. The other top Russian, Danila Yurov, goes to the Minnesota Wild. I like them taking a swing on Yurov here. Another guy that could end up looking really nicely at that pick for them. Philip Masar, the 3rd Slovakian who went, goes to the same team as Slavkovsky. So that's really cool. They were pumped about it when he found he was like about to do an interview or something, Slavkovsky, when he found out, and he was like freaking out. He's like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, he was so excited. So they're potential teammates someday. That's really cool. I love Masar's game as well. Sam Renzel at 25, weird pick. Chicago had a weird draft besides Frank Nazar. They did get Paul Ludwinski and Ryan Green, though, in the 2nd round, who I really liked as Bruins options. Maverick Lamoureux goes to Arizona. His parents were shown tongue kissing.
I was gonna add, that was gonna be my question. Which kid had the weird parent moment? Because that caught a lot of that was gonna be my moment of the week until you had the stupid fake John Morant quote come out.
Yeah, they got a little fired up there. Brad Lambert, the most polarizing player of the draft, falls to Winnipeg. Not a bad asset to get in the Andrew Cobb trade, which they did. Isaac Howard at 31, the stud with the hair, the turtleneck. the American flag belt buckle, telling everybody he's like the best dressed here, like best looking guy in the draft. All the swagger, almost fell out of the second round or out of the first round. That would have been tough.
Mhm.
But I mean, of course, he goes to Tampa. He's a really good player. He's going to be an NHL player. I love Isaac Howard. Really nice value there for Tampa. Reed Schaefer jumps into the first round, goes to Edmonton. Could end up being a nice little scoring winger for them someday. Jagger Firkus goes to Seattle, the one of the best names in the draft.
Mhm.
He goes to play with Shane Wright potentially someday. Matthias Havlin and Seamus Casey, my two boys at right shot defense, go 45 and 46. They go right after one another. Havlin to San Jose, Casey to New Jersey. And like I said earlier, Salamonson goes 55. Lane Hudson falls to 62 to Montreal. Montreal had a really good draft, and hosting the draft, that's a good thing. David Goyette, who I would have expected the Bruins to take, goes 61. Really interesting given the interest they had in him, but he goes to Seattle. Lane Hudson goes to Montreal. Gleb Trikazov, another guy I got seen the Bruins taking a swing on if they felt like going with a Russian stud scorer, but he goes to Carolina. It's such a Carolina pick. Really good value there. Calio Delius rounds out the second round. Really good value. I thought he was going to sneak into the first round. I felt like a Toronto pick to me. Any notable late round picks that I can think of? Ben McDonald, the guy I talked about for Nobles last week, as you'll remember, is the third round fit for the Bruins. Seattle took him with the Bruins' third round pick that they.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
I kind of nailed it. Kind of didn't. Kind of half nailed it.
We'll give you a half point.
Yeah, Danny Zilkin, the guy I would have expected the Bruins to take in hope, went 77. For anybody who didn't know, he went to Winnipeg, so he fell a little bit. Bryce McConnell Barker, another guy I wanted, went the last pick of the third round to the Rangers. Any other notable notes from the draft? Doesn't really look like it. Cruz Lucius, that's a cool name for keeping track of names.
Mhm.
His brother is a Winnipeg prospect for first rounder. Alex Bump, the Bruins didn't draft a guy named Bump. They drafted a defenseman / center instead. Love a guy named Bump, just a funny name. Any other notable picks? Nothing crazy I'm seeing right now as I scroll through these. Dominic James, 173. Chris Peters sold me on him. Nice value for Chicago. I think there's one. Connor Kurth I would have liked for the Bruins. He's an overager. Plays in Tampa. Another guy I've heard from Chris Peters, good overager option, but he goes to Tampa, not Boston. That's okay though. There's one, I feel like one interesting one. Jack Devine falls to the 7th round. That was the last one. Guy that some people projected to go 3rd or 4th round. Not sure why he fell, but Florida gets him in the 7th round. To wrap up my draft coverage here. And Ivan Zigulov, just for one more, goes to Colorado with the last pick. He's Mr. Irrelevant. He's a goalie.
Yeah.
So maybe with Colorado, he'll just be their next stud goalie. They had like a 6th and a 7th when it was all said and done. So they had like no picks this year.
Yeah, nothing.
I think they ended up recuperating a 5th, but I might be wrong. We did see some crazy trades in the draft. Montreal got Kirby Dach. Alexander Romanov went to the Islanders. Man, it was an eventful start of the draft. I can't think of a time we had like that eventful of a start of a draft in a while. It was pretty cool to see that. I feel like I'm forgetting one trade here.
Was draft night the night all the goalies were getting traded, or was that the night before?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
I'm trying to like reboot my memory here on these things. Georgiev went the day before. He went to Colorado, signed a deal there. The Romanov trade, the DeBrincat trade. Arizona traded 3 valuable picks for Connor Geekie. He got hip checked in development camp and potentially has a bad hip injury, so that's tough luck for them.
Yeah.
San Jose with Mike Greer's first draft as GM got really good value with Phil Beestet, Cameron Lund, and Matthias Havlin with those picks. Yeah, Peter Mrazek was dumped to Chicago with a first-round pick for a second-round pick. Zach Cassian, a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and a second-round pick for a first-round pick to Edmonton. So Edmonton gets rid of that contract. Ville Husso, his rights go to Detroit. Detroit signs him. Vitek Vanacek for a second and a third, along with the second to New Jersey. New Jersey got Seamus Casey, so they automatically win that trade. That's my guy. And yeah, those are the other big trades. The rest of them were just like draft pick swaps throughout. and teams trading 2022 picks for 2023 picks and adding some assets. What's going to be a pretty good draft next year. Oh my God. Oh my God.
A lot of hockey.
A lot of hockey. So much. The funny thing is there's so much more we can talk about. We're just not going to do
it. Yeah.
we
don't have
we can't talk
5
so
out.
much
Yeah.
more.
The only thing I wanted to ask you about the draft, because I feel like a lot of people were surprised he fell to 4, like you mentioned. But do you think are the 3 players that were drafted ahead of Shane Wright just overall better? Do you think like you said, the Shane Wright thinking I'm the best player in the draft, do you think that had any effect of why he fell 4 spots?
No.
You think teams didn't look at him and were like, all right, this kid's a little too cocky for our liking?
Yeah, his development got interrupted by COVID, him losing a whole season of development. The hype has been there since he was 15, so maybe a little prospect fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And just like throughout his draft season, there wasn't the progression player or scouts and like people were hoping for. So that's why he kind of fell. Slafkovsky's had a great year internationally, playing with men in Finland. Big body. He gets number 1 on Mackenzie's draft rankings as well, right before the draft. So, Montreal right down to the end, they go with Slafkovsky.
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey really likes Nemitz. They really like Nemitz. So they go with him at 2. Logan Cooley or Shane Wright at 3. They went with Cooley, so Shane Wright falls. Probably going to play some games with Seattle this year. And him and Matty Beniers is the number 1, number 2 center duo of the future. Is perfect because there's kind of some belief that Shane Wright could be better suited as a really good 2C.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Matty Beniers is the number 1 center. Like, I think he will be. He could be, like, by the end of the season. I think he's that good. So it's going to work out. Shane Wright's going to be really good. Matty Beniers is going to be really good. It's a huge, huge, huge thing for Seattle. Like, you probably don't have to worry about your top 2 centers for at least 5-6 more years. Like, maybe for
I wish we had that
a
problem.
decade plus. They're an expansion team, man. Yeah. They had a really good draft too, overall. So that's huge for them. But you made a trade with the Bruins too, so that's the first trade between those 2 teams. So fun factoid. And Shane Wright, he's got a lot to live up to now. Prove people wrong. So I like Nemitz too. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to go with a defenseman. I figured they would have just either traded the pick down or went with like Cutter Gauthier off the board as a winger, or gone with Logan Cooley because he's best player available. If they didn't think it was right, which I don't think they would because he's a natural center, maybe they say like, oh, Logan Cooley could be a top 6 winger for us someday, and he's just really fucking good, so we'll take him. But they went with Nemitz, and it's a guy that can be a top pairing defenseman absolutely in the future. So not a bad pick, and really cool to see 2 Slovakians go 1 and 2 with the big Slovakian next year being Dalibor Dvorsky to continue that lineage of a top Slovak going in the draft. He looks pretty good. So interesting draft. Now we, for anybody who's a draft fanatic, looks forward to the biggest draft in years. So that's going to be exciting around this time next year, probably a little sooner than it was this year. So my God. Watch. Now I'll go to like Cap Friendly and there'll be like a huge signing, like Nazem Kadri signed somewhere
out of nowhere.
Nikita Zadorov stays with Calgary. That's interesting. He's testing the market. Kind of expected him to leave, but they keep him around. But yeah, that looks like nothing else crazy since then. No Kadri news, which at this point I think we're just waiting until tomorrow for Kadri news. So we'll see what happens there. But on to Red Sox, and I will segue to you.
All right, I'll give you a little bit of a breather. Just some. You can answer some small questions that I have. I'll give my thoughts for the most part to open things up. So, of course, as we talked about on last week's show, when we did last week's show, Brian Bayo was making his major league debut for the Red Sox. Got 2 starts before he was optioned back to AAA Worcester to make room for Chris Sale last night. We'll get to Chris Sale in a second. But Bayo's first 2 major league starts against the Rays, depending on how you looked at him, if you thought he was going to come up here and like some people thought be the reincarnation of Pedro Martinez. I know there was a lot of comps to that. Or if you were kind of like myself, you were excited, but you're like, all right, this kid's young, not proven, facing a pretty good team. So this could go either way. Could be good, could be bad. Was more so on the bad side, both starts. He finishes with just 8 innings pitched in 2 starts. He had 13 hits allowed, 9 earned runs, 6 walks, 7 Ks. That comes out to an ERA over 10. First start through 79 pitches, 45 strikes. Second start against the Rays through 82 pitches, 48 strikes. And I joked with you last night, obviously, if you'd like to see maybe some success for Brian Bayo, maybe don't pitch him against the Rays again, just because it wasn't a great look. But I mean, I don't know how much of his major league debut. I'm assuming you sat down and watched it like I did, because it was obviously something we were both looking forward to. His second outing against the Rays was a little bit better. He seemed like he was more, calmed down, wasn't as amped up. I mean, the first start against the Rays, that was going to be a given, because it was young 20-year-old making it, or 20. He's what, 22, 23, I think he is, making his major league debut. Yeah. So you could tell the nerves were there. I mean, he really didn't have a ton of command in that first outing. His changeup, which is arguably his best pitch to some people, he used it a lot. That was a pitch he threw the most up here, 30 of them, 38%. Sinker, he threw 29 of them, 36.7% usage. Slider was 13 times used, 16.5%, and his four-seam fastball. A little surprising he didn't lean more on that. I thought maybe that's a pitch that he probably should have used more. He only threw it 7 times in 2 outings, and 8.9%. If you want to go into like the advanced stats and stuff like that, from baseball savant, .mlb.com, look that up. That was kind of the thing. I saw a lot of people talk about, his changeup is his out pitch for the most part. But when he threw that and it's 88 miles per hour, it kind of comes out to be, there isn't much of a difference between that and his four-seam fastball. Like, there isn't enough of a difference. And that was noticeable. Like, guys weren't teeing off on his changeup and his fastball, but if he was missing his spots, they were going to get hit. Big league batters are going to do that. So there's some growing pain stuff. I talked to you about this, I think last night, kind of discussing, what we were going to talk about with Bayo. And it kind of, to me, it seemed like Brian Bayo was here as more of a necessity with all the injuries. Like, he probably needs another year, like a full year at AAA, to kind of fine tune his stuff, because the stuff's there. I mean, you can definitely tell from a velocity standpoint, the electricity is there, but then you watch, it's like, all right, the changeups kind of floating at times. The slider's a little flat. His fastball is not getting a lot of guys to swing and miss at it. He's not afraid to use it, which is good. I think that was kind of one of the big takeaways a lot of people had, is he's not afraid to use his off-speed stuff and mix up. But the case of mixing up is you need to have, maybe take some, I think Lou Maloney said it, take some velocity off the changeup a little bit to get that a little bit different looking than the sinker and the fastball that are sitting in the upper 90s. But overall, like, again, I saw some people that were like, oh, great, this kid came up here and tanked and, he stinks. Yeah. I wouldn't say that. Like I said, he's facing a very good lineup. 2 starts, like, you're not going to get a whole lot out of that. Like, you're not going to be able to tell with this kid. So I think you got what you got out of him. Maybe you'll see him up here again if you have more injuries, or if, September call-ups, maybe he gets another shot there. But for the most part, I don't know if you feel the same way. I honestly would probably keep him in the minors for the rest of the year, fine-tune some stuff, start him there next year. Again, because I just don't think he's ready yet, and then kind of get a full year under his belt and see where you go from there.
Yeah, I mean, he got lit up fairly good, but like, it's a good learning experience at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a good learning experience. I don't imagine he'll be like shell shocked from it. He's 23. Like, he's got time to grow. He's had a pretty rapid rise too. Like, he could.
Yeah, we said it last week.
We could have waited until like next year for this. But we call him up potentially a little early, gave him an audition. He's going to learn from it, I think. So I've really no real reason to be worried. And obviously, with what you're hoping to get out of Chris Sale, you're sending him down for a good reason. Hopefully,
absolutely. Yep.
So you gave him a little audition. It's a good feel good moment for him too. Exciting time, knowing the organization has a lot of confidence in him as well. Has to help his his morale and give him a little what's the word I'm looking for here? A little morale boost, I guess I'll just say.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm not really worried about it. He'll be fine. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, it's I was listening to John Tomasi talk about it last night. He was on one of the late night shows, and I think he said that kind of, it's like you said, it's a learning curve for him, because I'm pretty sure last year he brought it up that Bayo, when he got to AA, was horrible last season, and that was something he had to overcome and learn. Is you're in a step up from the league you were in previously, obviously low A ball, high A ball, stuff like that. So he had to learn how to pitch in AA, gets called up to AAA, and really didn't have any hiccups. We talked about that. We previewed him. He was pretty solid in all of his AAA starts. So now you jump up to the major leagues and you finally face, major league hitters are not going to swing and miss at a changeup that's right down the heart of the plate. Or, you mislocate a slider and it hangs. They're not going to, be fooled by that. So this is, like you said, it's a learning experience. It's something he's going to have to grow and try to overcome. And again, I'm not worried in the slightest. Like, yeah, it stunk to see him go out there and struggle, not look all that great. Again, first start, kind of had the deer in the headlights moment in the first inning, had some hard hit balls and was like, whoa, this is not what I'm used to, because I'm used to blowing guys away and, being excellent. in the minors. So again, not worried. I think there were a couple overreactions that I saw where people were like, "Oh, here we go again. If this kid stinks and they don't have any pitching." Like again, give the kid a full year in AAA to really fine tune some things. Maybe work on that slider a little bit, figure out the changeup, stuff like that. Again, just use the force. I was surprised that he only threw his 4-seam fastball, according to this website, 7 times. Like he primarily throws his sinker / 2-seamer, but maybe you throw the 4-seamer a little bit more. It plays up the changeup a little bit, and you get some guys to swing and miss that you weren't doing before. So we'll see if he gets a second audition this season, or if we see him next season down the line, if maybe those things are kind of tweaked and some fine-tuned things.
Yeah, it just comes down to the whole, you got him the audition. Now he knows what he needs to work on, getting that taste of things, and just build on those tools, because he's had a rapid rise, so he can go back and potentially just continue to kill it, and then you reevaluate next year. So no reason to be concerned. I think the concept in general of overreacting about a bad start or two for a very young player at any position is fucking stupid.
It's ridiculous across any sport. Like in this one too, it's like, it's so tough that you're not gonna, like, it was, if I don't even want to say, like, because they're playing so well, but like if he came up here and like the Orioles was his first team and he pitched against and like he stunk against the Orioles, then maybe you could be like, all right, like this is, or like the Reds or the Athletics or somebody who's really bad this season. But you're playing a team that has had a ton of success. It's been a dominant force in the American League for the last couple of years. Like it was not going to be an easy, like if he came out and dominated the Rays, then you could sit there and go, wow, this kid is something else. But he really never really had one of those moments where you were sitting and going, this is, this kid is here, he's ready to, make an impact right away. So again, it's kind of fine tuning stuff. Give him a year and, we'll see if he improves off of things. And I don't have any doubt that he won't, figure things out.
Yeah, he'll figures it out. He'll figure it out.
Figure some things out. Like I said, the reason Bayo is no longer here is Chris Sale was activated off the injured list, was recalled from Worcester the other night, made his season debut with the Red Sox, pitched pretty well, took a no decision, 5 innings, 3 hits, didn't give up any runs, had 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, threw 78 pitches and 53 strikes. I kind of caught glimpses. I don't know how much of it you watched. I had work, so I was trying to. No, okay. So I was on break trying to watch some of it. From what I saw on Twitter and heard from people, the fastball, watching a little bit of it, looked good. Sat in the mid 90s like it had been during all of his rehab assignments. He's 95, 96 a couple of times. His slider, I thought, looked like prime Chris Sale. Struck a couple of lefties out on the sliders, being G-Man Choi and Brett Phillips. 4 out of his 5 strikeouts, I went back and watched the highlights, actually came on the slider. 3 were looking, 2 to lefties, 1 to righties. His last K was on a 94-mile-per-hour fastball. So it looked like, somewhat vintage Chris Sale. I wouldn't say he's fully back yet in 5 innings. Again, it's just kind of, you're filling it out with him. But one of the concerns I was going to have with Chris Sale going into the start was, we obviously saw him coming off the start in Worcester where he was kicking TVs and freaking out over too many walks. So I was kind of worried that, maybe he'd be a little too amped up getting back out there, overthrow some pitches, get into some trouble early. You never really saw that. He looked like, calm, cool, collective. Again, to think of that as Chris Sale, you might think the opposite because he is kind of a wild guy. But I didn't think, he really had any moments where he looked like he was losing it or had any hiccups or anything like that. He looked pretty solid for a guy that hadn't pitched in a year and had some setbacks. And obviously, like I said, was coming off a start where he thought he struggled and wasn't too happy about it. But 1 start in for Chris Sale, so far so good. Obviously, the ending of the game was not great. We'll get to that in a second. But he'll make 1 final start before the All-Star break. It'll be Sunday afternoon in the Bronx against the Yankees. So we'll see if he can continue with the success he had in this start, and maybe the Red Sox can go out and actually get him a win because he pitched like he deserved it last night.
Yeah, and real quick on the whole meltdown he had, like you can't.
Yeah, we really didn't talk about that, did we?
You can't do that. That's fucking embarrassing.
Really? You think so?
Dude, you're in a minor league facility and you're doing that shit. Like, you gotta calm down. This is nothing new with him. This is a guy who cut up jerseys.
That was going to be my point. I don't have a problem with it because that's
relaxed. Dude.
Yeah.
Like,
there's arguments to both sides. I mean, I had more of a problem with when he came out and, was kind of bitching and complaining about the person filming it, which like, that's what happens this day and age. People have phones. Everything is on video. Like that. You shouldn't have a problem with that getting recorded.
Read the room, buddy. If you didn't do it,
that too,
it wouldn't have been a problem. Like,
I don't know. Like to me, I don't. like you said, that's who Chris Sale is. He's the psycho that didn't want to wear a jersey, so he took scissors to it. So I fully expect if something goes wrong, he's going to have a meltdown. We saw it in the World Series in 2018 where he was, dropping F-bombs at his teammates and saying that they were fucking embarrassments. So it's nothing new with him. So the freak out to me wasn't, I don't know. I just didn't really take it as anything too major, but I can see where you're coming from. And a lot of people had that same thought that like, you're in a AAA rehab assignment. What are you freaking out and losing on a TV for? Like,
chill out, dude. Like, just chill out.
Did you hear though? He wasn't.
This is the bare minimum. Like, apologizing and paying for some stuff. And,
exactly.
I think he like bought some people dinner or something.
Yeah, he did. Yep. I was gonna say, did you see? Like, I think it was the guy in spring training that was hitting all the home runs, Ryan Fitzgerald. I think he said he came to Sale's defense and was like, "I was the one that broke it a week before. Like, I took a bat to it." I think he said, and Chris just kind of finished the job off. Yeah.
Player.
Yeah, exactly.
35. Like,
that's
like 24.
Like,
something like that.
But
I think you can't fucking do that. That's just really, I'd be so embarrassed for him. Like,
I think that's what Eck was saying, that like that's an embarrassing thing to do. But like, again, Eck was like, I've done stuff like that in the past too, so I don't know how much I can get on the guy for. But I get it. Like,
acceptable one is Big Papi, when Big Papi smashed shit.
Well, that's what everyone else was talking. Like, this isn't a new occurrence. Like,
you can't.
No chance. But yeah, I guess I can see both sides of the argument. Like, to some degree, I like seeing it because it shows that, he has the fire and he obviously wants to get back to pitch. But I can also see the side of it that you're coming from. And like I said, a lot of other people are coming from that, like, buddy, like, let's just take it easy for a second. Like, you're going to get back in the majors. This isn't like a massive setback. I think they said that night he's still going to, be on time to obviously start when he did. There wasn't going to be any sort of pushback or anything.
One question I wanted to bring up, me and Matt talked about this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's looking ahead to the postseason if they were to make it, but are you in the camp where you want to see Chris Sale in the bullpen like we have seen in the past in the postseason?
If he can,
I am in the right scenario. I am.
Really?
I am.
What's the right scenario?
It worked. If you're, I don't see this happening. If you're at a point where you have a comfortable enough group of starters that can obviously change in a good or bad way from where they're at now, from now until the postseason. But in the right scenario, I'm 100% down with putting him in the bullpen. Think about this. We have all these things, like John Schreiber's been good. You're waiting to get Garrett Whitlock back, whether he's going to be a starter or in the bullpen. Why not have that like surefire option in the bullpen? But at the same time, it comes back to like, if he's playing good, you want him in the starting rotation, but it have to be a perfect scenario.
Yeah, I could see that. Like,
perfect scenario, I'm cool with it if they do it this year. I'm very cool with them putting him in the bullpen like they did in 2018.
I mean, they didn't put him in the bullpen in 2018. They just had him. Yeah, I don't know if you're confusing it with that. They had him close out the game, the World Series in 2018. They put him in the bullpen.
No, what? Yeah, when did they put him in the bullpen then?
That was 20. That wasn't last year because he started last year. 2 years ago, was it? When he came back?
It might have been. Hold on.
I think you may have mixed it up, but
I might have been mixing that year up because I was. Yeah, I think I might have been mixing it up.
Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, if that wasn't,
Reference has so many different like groups of stats. I can never navigate their website.
It's a great website. I love using that website. But no, I think just to answer that question, I mean, unless he like completely falls off and like is struggling to get through games and maybe fatigue is setting in, because obviously you had a late start to the season, maybe you pitch him out of the bullpen if you get there. Of course, like you said, it is quite a ways away playoff wise. But unless like something drastic happens, I mean, I fully expect them. I hope they go out and get at least one reliever at the trade deadline or do something. Like you said, Whitlock's coming back. I think they've all but confirmed when he comes back, he's going to be in the bullpen, whether that's closing or just, kind of setting somebody up. Because I feel like they're still set on Houck being the closer, which I don't know how I feel about that still. Like you kind of seeing the back end of the bullpen being built, the bridge to Houck when Whitlock comes back. You mentioned Schreiber's been excellent. So he's, there to stay, obviously. I think you keep Sale in the rotation. If anything, like if you come to the playoffs, maybe, Rich Hill's a guy that moves to the bullpen. Like you're putting whichever starter is, not struggling the most, but like the starter you can, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? you can afford to take out of the rotation and have pitch in the bullpen, I guess. But again, that's so far away. And like you mentioned, so many different things can change that. I think it's a question for later on when that maybe you have to come to that bridge and cross it. Did you find what you were looking for in Baseball Reference?
No, Baseball Reference, too much going on that website.
It is a lot. There's a lot of stats and stuff they throw at you.
Yeah, this article makes a good point. During his career, Chris Sale made 80 regular season appearances as a reliever, logging 95 and 1/3 innings of work, posting a 2.55 ERA and 112 strikeouts. So,
well, he started his career as the White Sox closer, I think.
Season with his last such appearance coming when he struck out the side to clinch the 2018 World Series. So I don't know why I was thinking total brain fart at my point. I was thinking he played.
Did you get him confused with David Price? They brought Price back 1 year out of the bullpen and it worked out phenomenally. Yeah, I think you did.
I did. Oh, that's a tough look, but it's okay because I'm over it. You're over it. And
I think that was
listening.
I think that was 17. They did that with Price, and it worked out well. Everyone was like, "Wow, maybe that's the key to postseason." David Price is pitching him out of the bullpen, and then obviously,
oh my god, idiot mode.
It's all right.
Mode. That's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I'm not the baseball guy here. I just,
it's all right.
Had a mishap. It's okay, guys.
Yep,
okay.
It happens to the best of us. But yeah, I mean, going off the Chris Sale game last night, of course, if you watch, that was the Chris Sale game last night. What am I talking about? Getting home from work, watching the end of the game, seeing how that, the loss unfolded. I have completely flipped. Like I said, still want a reliever for the bullpen, 1, maybe 2, if you can get them. You should be able to, as we get to the trade deadline preview that we'll do in a week or two. I have a bunch of names that I've kind of labeled out, and they shouldn't be all that hard to get. My position has flipped though to first base. You need a legitimate first baseman on this team. I've had 100% had it with the Bobby Dahlbeck and Franchy Cordero experience. Again, I'm not going to crap on Franchy too much because we talked about it before, and I said it. He's had a nice season, but how sustainable is he at first base for the long run? Turns out he's not, as we've seen these last couple of nights. Bobby Dahlbeck's a black hole. I know he had an RBI triple the other night, but to me, that ball was completely watching the highlight, misplayed by Brett Phillips. He overran it, maybe lost it in the garbage ceiling that the Trop is. So I'm not going to give Dahlbeck credit for that. But the last couple of games you have not primarily lost, but big part you've lost because of your first base play. Obviously, last night you have it, the comebacker to Matt Strom. He makes a stupid decision throwing the ball to first base after he gets hit by it, which leads to the first throwing error. And then for some reason, the reason being is Franchy Cordero is not a primary first baseman and doesn't know that you don't throw the ball when he did. He throws it away on a play what looked like Vasquez was trying to call for time at the plate, didn't know the ball was coming. That ends up leading to ultimately the game-winning run. Tampa Bay wins the game 3-2. Tuesday, they might have been out of hand. It was 7-5 in the 8th. So like I said, maybe somewhat over, but Dahlbeck drops a pop fly playing third base, covering for Devers, who's been out with a back problem the last couple of nights. Gives away an out. Tampa Bay scores 3 more runs in that inning. They win the game 10-5. The game on the 7th versus the Yankees, you have Cordero miss the pop-up, which was egregious. Again, not a first baseman, but he's an outfielder. You should be able to catch a pop-up, if you ask me. That would have ended the inning. Instead, Jose Trevino later on gets credited with an RBI double. That puts the Yankees up 6-2. They win the game 6-5. So you're seeing it here. You're starting to lose some of these games because you have 2 pretty inept baseball players at first base. Like I said, Dahlbeck's been horrible. 78 games. He's hitting .208 with 6 homers and 21 RBIs. Cordero's hitting .236 with 4 and 24. He's got 6 errors on the year. 5 of them have come at first base. Bobby Dahlbeck, I know we don't go into it too much when it comes to advanced stats. He's a minus player when it comes to WAR. Again, so take that as you will. I know a lot of people will lean heavily on WAR. You and I don't for the most part because we don't like the advanced stats when it comes to baseball. But these are 2 guys that they are costing you baseball games. Dahlbeck is an automatic out pretty much when he comes to the plate. Again, Cordero, I don't want to crap on him too much, but if there's better options out there, you can get away with not having Franchy Cordero on this roster. At that point, if you get somebody else, make him your 4th outfielder if you want to go that way, because Duran is struggling, so maybe he takes a seat. And it's interesting that MLB insider and analyst Jim Bowden, he came out with a column the other day that floated a trade possibility that involved Bobby Dahlbeck. Like I said, I told you that maybe you get some stupid team
Going.
to bite on Bobby Dahlbeck. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, trying to put my thoughts
No,
together.
I like where this is going. I know. Where you're going.
Yeah,
like
maybe
where
you
it's
get
going.
a stupid team to bite on Bobby Dahlbeck, and maybe that stupid team is the Washington Nationals, because in this Jim Bowden column, he had the Red Sox, their biggest weakness, of course, a lack of offensive production from first base. He said the solution to that, acquire first baseman Josh Bell in the trade with the Nationals for Bobby Dahlbeck and left-handed pitcher Chris Murphy. Obviously, that solves your Bobby Dahlbeck problem, and you're starting to see a logjam at AAA and in the minors when it comes to, all these pitchers that you have. Chris Murphy's a guy that's kind of burst onto the scene. He's had a decent year. From what I've seen, doesn't have a roster spot though, not on the 40-man roster. You can survive with, trading one of your lower end pitchers. But you can get rid of them.
It's a similar thing last year. You traded for a national, it worked. You traded a good pitcher for him,
keep
worked.
going back. Keep dipping
Just
into that pool. It seems to.
Give him another pitcher.
It seems to work out well.
Guy's name was last year. I guess he's supposed to be pretty decent, but
it was a guy Gomez or something.
28 home runs, playing in the home run derby.
He's an all-star. Like, you maybe should have kept that guy. Take the growing pains at first base with him.
Angry.
But I mean, that's 100% right though.
59 home runs this year. Like, I hope he just goes off.
Probably on pace to do so. I don't get what it is with the month of June with him, though. I mean, the last, 2 or 3 years, he's led all of baseball with like home runs in June. He's got like 30 something.
Aaron Judge, and he played 15 less games.
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember what the stat exactly was, but it's ridiculous.
Stat with him and Judge. He
just hates the month of June, or loves the month of June, and hates baseballs in it. Like,
I'm not a betting guy, but I am betting real money on Kyle Schwarber to win the home run derby. So,
but I mean, we'll get to the home run derby in 1 second. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Josh Bell other than that you want him here because it would solve a lot of your problems. And he's, like I said, a legitimate first baseman who gets on base, hits home runs, doesn't strike out a ton. He's only struck out 50 times this year, which is crazy to me as a big power hitter that he is. Dahlbeck has struck out 72 times. Cordero has struck out 62 times. Dahlbeck and Cordero combined have walked 43 times. Josh Bell has walked 40. He's got 19 doubles combined. Dahlbeck and Cordero have 20. He's scored almost the same amount of runs. Like, he's basically putting up the production of one guy that, the Red Sox have combined as a whole at first base this season, which is kind of ridiculous. So whatever it takes, I am fully on board with giving up whatever, unless it's like an egregious offer. Or the Nationals, I don't think they would want anything crazy for Josh Bell. He's an expiring contract. They're not going anywhere. This is a guy I think you have to make a move for, more so than a reliever, because like we mentioned, you're getting a bunch of these pitchers back. You're going to have not a problem, but you might have to make some moves in the rotation. Now it's Sale back. Do you go with a 6-man rotation? Do you bump somebody out? Like you said, Whitlock's coming back. First base should be the priority right now because you don't have anything there. The Dahlbeck experience is over. It has not worked for 2.5 years now. And then maybe there's some people that are like, oh, maybe if, again, we get to the trade deadline and you have all these talks of going out and trading for someone, maybe that'll wake Bobby Dahlbeck back up. He's got a couple of hits recently. No, I'm done with that too. Like, this guy sucks. He's not a Major League Baseball player.
I'm at the point right now where I want to see them make the Josh Bell trade if they're going to do it well before the deadline.
The longer you wait, the more teams are going to get involved, and then you might lose out on the guy that you rightfully should be going after. Like, there should be no other
trade history with. Hit him up again. Like, they're going to have no problem trading the guy. They're bad.
That's what I mean. At every trade predictions or trade deadline preview you see, Josh Bell is one of the first 3 names listed because it is almost a guarantee that he is going to be gone and not be on the Nationals come the end of the trade deadline. I think it's 4:00 on August 2nd. I think it is this year. So he is not going to be with that team. Now, where will he be is obviously the question, and hopefully it's in a Red Sox uniform because he's a guy you need. You can't keep trotting Dahlbeck and Cordero out there. Again, Francis had a nice year, but he's not an everyday sustainable first baseman, and Dahlbeck's giving you nothing.
Yeah, man. It sucks that the Bobby Dahlbeck experience is probably over because I had high hopes for him ever since they drafted him, but it's just one of those guys. You draft some of these power guys, and you have to wonder: are they going to become a good big time power guy, or are they going to become a guy that hits home runs but strikes out
200 times? Yeah,
and he's just not a good infielder at all. Like, he's just not, and it sucks. But Yeah, I mean, you got to try and move on from it if you can. And
Mhm.
it sucks in this scenario that, like, ideally you'd have Tristan Cautious to call up, but he's hurt.
Yep.
So
Well, we
it
talked
just
about him last night
clouds
off
things a
air.
little more.
Like I told you, I'm 100% convinced that if he didn't get hurt, you probably would see him here right now. Like
I mean,
you'd have another,
monster home runs.
you'd have another Bayo type of thing where is he ready? I mean, I think the pace Costas was on at the start of the season, I think would have proven that he was ready to go regardless. But like you said, then the injury kind of derails things. He hasn't really gotten back from that yet. I think he's just ramping up baseball activities now, this previous week or the start of this week. So it kind of sucks that he's not here. But I think, again, out of necessity, because you don't have a legitimate first baseman, like he would have had to have come up. And, Chaim Bloom has talked. I heard him the other day, was talking about they still don't rule out the possibility of Casas coming up here. But at this point, like, do you really want to rush him if he's hurt and if he hasn't, been 100% the last handful of weeks or however long it's been, months now, I think, with his ankle injury? Do you really want to rush him up here and, run the risk of ruining him? Because again, I think he'll hit up here. I don't think it's going to be a problem. But I would rather you just go out and get a known commodity at this point. Like even if you strike out on Bell, I don't know how willing they'd be to move him just because what he means to that team. And shit, maybe with the way they're playing, they're going to be in a playoff hunt because they're only, I think, 2 games out. Call up Baltimore and see if you can maybe pry Trey Mancini from them. Like I think that's another guy they should be looking into. Again, I don't know how much Baltimore is going to want to move him because of everything just personal with him and the team and everything and beating cancer and the story there. And then again, that Baltimore is playing so well that they might be in a playoff spot come the trade deadline. You got to do something in that position because it's become, like I said, a borderline a black hole at this point.
Yeah, I agree on everything, so don't have a lot to add. One thing before we get into some all-star reactions, explain to me why the Blue Jays fired their GM.
Their head coach, their manager,
manager.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I mean, to some degree, I think you could maybe accredit it to that they think they've underachieved, and they rightfully have. They're 4th place in the division right now. A lot of people picked them to win the division, me being one of them. I'm trying to look up here where Toronto is record wise or what kind of they've done of late. Because I know, like I said, if I had to pick one thing, it's probably that they're underachieving. Let's see.
I don't know if there's anything else
they got swept by the lowly Mariners that aren't, having that great of a season. They've been underachieving. Oakland just beat them 2 out of 3, and we know how bad Oakland stinks. So they're kind of in a rut. It's kind of the same thing of why the Angels fired Joe Madden. Like you fire him in the middle of a big losing streak. Not that, obviously whatever the Angels losing streak at the time was 10 or 12 games, whatever ridiculous stat it was compared to the Blue Jays losing 4 in a row. But kind of I feel like the same thing of maybe trying to light a fire under the team's ass and say like, hey, we can't get rid of the players. So we'll get, make the coach the scapegoat. But kind of weird, but I think again, kind of rambling. You probably put it as, they've underachieved. They haven't done a lot this year and just years and prior when a lot of has been expected of them. And he kind of becomes the guy that gets thrown under the bus. See if it works. I mean, I don't know what Toronto's doing tonight, if they're winning, responding to it or what their deal is. They're beating Philadelphia 6-2 right now. So maybe it will come up a little bit. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see if they kind of figure some things out and play like they're supposed to be playing.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't know if there was anything else you might have had to say, given the fact that you know more about the game of baseball than I do. So, speaking of Toronto, to start off the American League starters, we got a few, a couple. I thought there was a third one. I was expecting to see Bo Bichette in here because I was expecting him to be an all-star at the beginning of the season, but they got Alejandro Kirk and Vladimir Guerrero to start things out for the American League.
Yeah, they were well represented. I mean, I'll kind of give my spiel about the fan vote when we get to more of the reserve stuff, just my thoughts on it, because the fan vote has kind of, it's always been a little bit of a joke, but this year, the fact that, I'll jump into it now, I guess. The fact that Danny Jansen, because like I said, the Blue Jays, they were well represented. I know Bichette, like you just mentioned, he was in the final vote type of thing to be named the starter. He lost that, I think. Or I know that because obviously Tim Anderson got named the starter. But Danny Jansen finished 3rd among all DH voting. And if you looked at Danny Jansen's stats this year, he was primarily a catcher, played 19 games, hit .232 with 9 homers and 13 RBIs, and was the 3rd highest vote getter for a DH. So if that makes sense to anybody, let me know. kind of ridiculous there. Again, there's some other stuff. But jumping back into the starters, like you mentioned, Alejandro Kirk and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the two Blue Jays that will man the infield for the American League All-Star starters. Jose Altuve of the Astros is at second. Tim Anderson, the shortstop for the White Sox. Rafael Devers, congratulations to him for being named a starter. And then, of course, Xander Bogaerts is one of the reserves. JD Martinez was added due to the injury to Yordan Alvarez. So JD Martinez is the reserve DH. For the rest of the starters, Giancarlo Stanton, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge among the outfielders, and Shohei Ohtani is the starting DH. For the reserves for the American League All-Stars, Jose Trevino of the Yankees, infielders Luis Arias of the Twins, Bogaerts, as I mentioned, of the Red Sox, Jose Ramirez of the Guardians, and Andres Jimenez of the Guardians as well. So their middle infielders represented. Outfielders, George Springer of the Blue Jays, Byron Buxton of the Twins, Andrew Benintendi, former Red Sox, probably not going to be a Royal for much longer. I think he's going to be another guy that's going to be dealt at the deadline. Kyle Tucker of the Astros, and Julio Rodriguez, who's also going to compete in the home run derby of the Mariners. And then, like I mentioned, Yordan Alvarez, the reserve DH, will not be playing because he's on the injured list. So JD Martinez fills in his spot. The legacy addition for the American League reserves is Miguel Cabrera. Kind of a cool touch there. Are you on board with the legacy additions? I've seen some people that are like, oh, Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols, why are they in the All-Star game? But I think maybe those people don't know that the commissioner, the new rule this year is the commissioner is allowed to pick two All-Stars, one from each league that are, like I said, kind of legacy additions to the roster.
So yeah, I don't know if you saw me yawning. I think I'm tuckered out from all the hockey talk. I like it. I don't really see the purpose in getting all worked up about adding a couple legends of the game.
Again, it's just you're too bored with life and need something to fill some time.
It's whatever. Like I've heard, I think Albert Pujols has 6 home runs this year, and he's in the home run derby.
I think that's cool. I think go
cool
out
too. He's probably not going to do good, but
it's cool. Gonna get people to watch the home run derby. I mean,
Schwarber's going to win anyway, so
I hope so. I hope Schwarber isn't one of those guys that comes out and doesn't do anything, because you always have one of those guys that the hopes are high for, and then they come out and kind of, crap the bed. But we'll have to wait and see on that, of course. Pitchers really quick for the American League. Left-handed pitcher Shane McClanahan, who's pitching for the Rays tonight against the Red Sox. Nestor Cortez of the Yankees, Framber Valdez for the Astros. Martin Perez, kind of funny that Martin Perez makes an all-star team after he leaves the Red Sox. Who would have thunk that?
It all started with you. You weren't high on him when they started him, and now he's an all-star.
Exactly. It's the reverse jinx, so I'll take credit there. And then the Tigers, their other all-star, Gregory Soto, their closer. For right-handed pitchers, Alex Manoah of the Blue Jays, Paul Blackburn of the Athletics, Justin Verlander of the Astros, Yankees starter Garrett Cole, who is, believe going to pitch on Sunday, so he's not going to be eligible for the all-star game. Shohei Ohtani makes it as a starter and a DH. Clay Holmes of the Yankees, Emmanuel Clase, and Jorge Lopez of the Orioles. For the National League, Wilson Contreras for the Cubs is the starting catcher, Paul Goldschmidt at first base. Jazz Chisholm, Trey Turner, Manny Machado in the infield. The outfielders, Jock Peterson, Ronald Acuna Jr., who I believe you picked him to win the MVP of the season, correct? All right, so I don't want to crap on him too much, but kind of another thing when it comes to the fan voting, the fact that Ronald Acuna Jr. has played 53 games. Yeah, 53 games, didn't make his debut until 20 games in, and is hitting 274 with 8 homers, 22 RBIs. He gets the most all-star votes for the National League, so that automatically puts him in as a starter. Again, fan vote, kind of a joke that I like Ronald Acuna. Again, I'm with you. I would have picked him as an MVP to start the season, but the fact that he's hurt or was hurt to start the year and hasn't, lit the world on fire, the fact that he's a starter is kind of absurd, but what are you going to do? It's the all-star reserves or the all-star game. You're going to have fans vote. Mookie Betts made it as well for starters, and Bryce Harper, who is hurt. He's not going to be the starting DH. It'll be William Contreras, I believe the first brothers to start in the all-star games, Wilson and William of the Cubs and Atlanta Braves. So kind of a cool moment there. For the reserves, Travis d'Arnaud of the Braves is the catcher. Infielders, Arenado, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, CJ Cron, and Dansby Swanson. Outfielders, as we mentioned, Kyle Schwarber gets it. Juan Soto, kind of an interesting choice for the Nationals there. I thought maybe Josh Bell would have gotten the nod, but of course he's an infielder, so they have to go with an outfielder there. Starling Marte of the Mets, Ian Happ of the Cubs. The DH was supposed to be, of course, Bryce Harper, but Garrett Cooper was named the replacement yesterday. And then their legacy addition, obviously, Albert Pujols. For pitchers, left-handed starter Clayton Kershaw, Max Fried. Josh Hader is hurt, so he will not pitch in the All-Star game. Joe Mantiply of the Diamondbacks, Carlos Rodon, who replaces Hader. And then for righties, Sandy Alcantara, Corbin Burns, Luis Castillo, Tony Gonsolin, Joe Musgrove, Edwin Diaz, Ryan Helsley, and David Bednar.
I don't know who Joe Mantiply is.
He's the lone at the Arizona Diamondback, who I feel like a lot of people probably share the same thought you do. But that's the kind of thing that's, I mean, I get it that struggling to figure out what to say about the All-Star game here. There's not much to add to it. The fact that, every team has to have one All-Star. Some people like that. Some people don't. I can kind of see the arguments for both sides of things.
Dude,
I'm glad.
Stop yawning.
Yeah, I know. We're getting late here. I'll try to wrap it up as quick as possible.
I tuckered myself out.
Yeah, talking all the hockey. I'm doing the same thing about baseball. It's okay.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well, not everything. I think I forgot to talk about the Brent Burns trade, but yeah, it's okay.
Well, now people know Brent Burns got traded. Where did he get traded to?
Carolina for
there you go.
A pick, a young player and prospect goalie, along with Lane Peterson to Carolina. So there's your news. Retained 33%. So
there you go.
They got rid of one of those big contracts in San Jose. So.
But yeah, just I'm looking really quick on anything else. A lot of it's just like soapbox type of stuff. Like I said about the voting process, Yordan Alvarez, if he was healthy, probably should have been the starting DH over Shohei Ohtani, but the people like Ohtani, so he's going to get the nod. Like I mentioned, Acuna Jr. probably shouldn't be the starting center fielder, but again, it's an all-star game. It's a popularity contest for the most part. First base in the American League was kind of wonky. Luis Arias gets the nod as the reserve. Stat-wise, leads the league in batting average and on-base percentage, has arguably had a better year than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. From just an overall production standpoint. I know the home runs and RBIs are in favor of Guerrero Jr. But Arias, you can make a case as a starting first baseman. Ty France, who is arguably the biggest snub out of every all-star, whether it's the National League or the American League, he probably should have made it to some degree. Brandon Drury, I thought, should have been the Cincinnati's lone all-star over Luis Castillo, who's 3-4 and 12 starts. That's not anything crazy in my opinion to shout about. Josh Bell probably should have been the Nationals lone all-star. We just talked about him and his production this season. Juan Soto, again, not a great year, but more people know Juan Soto's name than Josh Bell, so that's why that's going to be the case. And originally I was going to say Carlos Rodon probably should have made it over Clayton Kershaw, because Clayton Kershaw's only had 11 starts this season, and Rodon's been one of the best pitchers in the National League. But he was able to get in as a replacement for the Josh Hader injury. So like I said, nothing too crazy there. The only other thing, all-star wise, I was going to get your brief thoughts on, but you kind of alluded to what you think is going to happen with the home run derby. Just if people, don't tune into the home run derby, I would recommend it this year because the field is absolutely stacked. And this is has the making to be one of the best home run derbies ever. Pete Alonso's returning to try to be the only player in history to three-peat. If he did, he would join Ken Griffey Jr. as the only player to win the home run derby 3 times. As you mentioned, Kyle Schwarber's also there, Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr., Albert Pujols, as you mentioned, is giving it one last kick of the can. I saw the Yankees play-by-play guy last night said Giancarlo Stanton. I haven't seen it confirmed anywhere, but he said that Stanton's going to compete in it, so that'll be interesting to see him go. And then, as I said earlier, Julio Rodriguez is going to do it as well. So I think we're up to 7. It's probably one more spot that needs to be filled. I saw maybe Will Smith of the Dodgers, because you usually have a hometown guy do it. Might be interesting if he does it. But you're putting all your chips into Kyle Schwarber.
I am, but okay. I do love watching Giancarlo Stanton.
The home run derby's made for him.
He's got such a cool swing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Schwarber all day. The best swing of all time besides Ken Griffey Jr. He's doing it this year. He's doing it. He's just the man. He's built for the home run derby.
He is.
He is.
I was going to say
built for the home run derby.
The only guy that you could argue more, and again, I obviously didn't bet last year, but hypothetically speaking, bet against him last year and it came back to bite me. I want to say Schwarber, but Pete Alonso, the home run derby he's become the new Ken Griffey Jr. when it comes to the home run derby. The showmanship that he goes out on and does, the late, not innings, but late time drama that he puts up. Just fun to watch in the home run derby. That is his thing. I know he's finally kind of put it all together and has had an excellent season for the Mets, but before this year, the home run derby was really his time to shine. So I don't know if you can bet against him. If I was going to bet, wouldn't hurt to throw some money on Albert Pujols just to see if maybe he's got one last hurrah in him. kind of go out? You don't think so? You think he's just going to be the
I think there's no fucking chance.
Really?
Pujols wins the home run derby. Dude,
You think
he's not good
Nah,
anymore.
I mean, you're lobbing baseballs in his batting practice. Albert Pujols
I
in batting
know, but,
practice. Like,
he's old and
I'll put it this way:
he's there for fun. He's there for
as
fun.
long, well, like that's why I think you should just look into Albert Pujols. As long as he doesn't have a Robinson Cano circa whatever year that was, where he came out and was, I think, the defending champion and didn't hit a single home run in the first round. As long as you don't see that happen and Albert Pujols kind of makes an embarrassment of himself, I'll be happy. But yeah, I think right now it's Alonso's, Schwarber's, Stanton is the top three guys to beat.
I'm betting on Schwarber out of respect too.
Okay.
Respect.
I think that's a fair argument you can make.
I got a lot of respect for Schwarber, but I mean, Alonso, Schwarber, Stanton, and it's funny how you could say like you have Juan Soto out of the top three, and he's just like a beast. So,
hey, even Acuna too,
and Acuna, yeah, my MVP pick, Acuna. He's got a lot of catching up to do.
Yep.
But it's okay. It's okay to be a little bold, guys. Unless we have any final thoughts, I think that is going to wrap.
No, the homer, that kind of turned into rambling towards the end of it. Like I said, the all-star stuff turned into me jumping up on a soapbox and trying to scream to the heavens that
some rambling. I did.
All right.
I did more rambling, so it's fine.
Well, hopefully the people stuck with us then.
Yeah,
and then
it's good content. It's good content. So
absolutely.
Oh boy, episode 103 in the books. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on Twitter as I approach 1600 slowly at Mike_Cratty. You got 2 more to go. I just noticed. So do that. I'll make it 1600. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio. You can follow the show at Salvaggio and Cratty Pod. You can follow us on TikTok. Throw Salvaggio and Cratty into the search bar. You can find us anywhere you find your podcast. You can give us ratings on Apple and Spotify. You can check out all the other full press coverage content on the app and on Twitter. And just stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people. Hopefully we have some Krejci and Bergeron stuff to talk about next week and more. And we will talk to you then. Peace out.